Welcome to the Sherdog Radio Network preview for UFC Fight Night 256, Burns vs. Morales, also known as UFC Vegas 106, also known as Feeding the Old Lions to the Young Lions. This is a card brought to you by Keith Shillan's absolute cruelest and most inhumane matchmaking instincts as put forth by him on his grouchiest, latest recap show ever. I'm Ben Duffy, Sherdog Senior Editor. With me, as always, is Keith Shillan, the executive producer of the Sherdog Radio Network. And if you ever listen to one of our recaps, we typically put forth next matchups for notable winners as well as losers. I tend to be kinder to the elderly because I am older than Keith. Keith is all about law of the jungle, and there's going to be some slaughter on this card. Keith, are you happy?
Yeah, this is what I say. Oh, you got to use this guy's name to get over the next person. Like, use their name before everyone realizes exactly how washed they are. Nice job, UFC.
So, we just finished with UFC 315, a lean, mean 12-fight card that, we learned a lot. We had some upsets. We had some ultraviolets. We had a couple of round of the year candidates. The Fight Night card immediately after a pay-per-view, whether it is a massive blockbuster pay-per-view or just, kind of an interesting one like we just had, there's always a little feeling of hangover / leftovers night / you very famously once called a Fight Night card toddler plastic toy soup. This is one of the ones, but some of the plastic toys have been chewed on by the dog.
This is the yard. You ever drive by and you see yard sale sign and you're like, oh, you get all excited and you pull over thinking maybe, I can get maybe a nice tool, something.
Yeah.
And then you go through and it's old clothes and then nobody wants it, should just be donated to Savers. This DVDs from the 90s. It's Uncle Buck 2 and
you know those scratches, you just rub some toothpaste on those scratches will come right out and they won't skip anymore.
All these movies that nobody cares about.
Yeah.
The Cutting Edge 2.
Yeah. There's an Xbox One over there that nobody's TV even has the plugs for it anymore.
Is there anybody on planet Earth looking for that? That's kind of what we got here. We got is anybody looking for Connor Matheus fight?
Whew. Yeah. We'll talk about that one.
Anybody dying to see Paul Craig fight again? Come on.
Now, obviously, we judge these cards on a different standard than we judge a pay-per-view or even an on-the-road fight night where it's, UFC Columbus or UFC Atlanta or whatever. But the question there are two questions I sometimes remember to ask you. What fight outside of the main event are you most looking forward to? But this is the really damning question. Who on this card is closest to a title shot? I'm going to leave this dead air in there because I thought about this for a while too.
I mean, it's got to be Morales.
It's got to be Morales, and he's undefeated?
The issue is that division is so loaded.
Yeah.
That he really isn't close.
Right. Through no fault of his own, he's undefeated. No. He's exciting, but it's like saying, I'm close to home when I'm a mile and a half away, but there's just deadlock traffic in front of me, and I know it's going to take me 45 minutes. Through no fault of his own, Michael Morales ain't fighting for a UFC title anytime in the next 18 months.
No, he's not.
He can literally win his next 3 fights. And
this is a section when I see tools that I walk at the yard sale. I look over, and it's a rusty screwdriver. And I'm like, who buys screwdrivers at yard sales? Is there anybody who's oh, dude, I've been waiting to get a screwdriver. I don't have a flathead screwdriver at home.
This card is like when you're at a yard sale and you see a toilet snake for sale. It's I'm not buying a used toilet snake, dude.
I sit there. The reason I'm going off on yard sales, I stopped at a yard sale between my son's games the other day, and I was sitting there and I'm looking at these people have their whole lives, all the junk that they have laid out all across their driveway in the yard, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh, if I was doing one thing where I was going to buy the whole lot,
Like it's like Storage Wars. You walk up, you got 60 seconds to decide how much you're going to bid for everything.
When I give him $25, I get $25. And I'm sitting there like, someone spends their Saturday. I'm sitting there. Okay, this is the full circle. Someone's like writes flyers, sets out, puts all their stuff out to get like $25 on it. Like, who spends their Saturday to get like for $25? Like, I'd rather just give it all. Like, save. Like, all right, I lose out on $25, but then I'm like, who spends their Saturday watching this fucking card? Oh, I do, and then I'm gonna reach out afterwards. So well, this is the UFC yard sale.
It is a yard sale. Like that's about it. And longtime viewers of the show know that we're having fun here, and it's as fun to talk about the bad cards sometimes as the good ones. There are going to be a few new listeners here who are like, well, if you don't like it, blah, blah, blah. Like, guys, yes, fights is better than no fights. But
yeah. And I guarantee we'll watch more fights than you have. So shit.
Yeah. And if we don't tell you the truth about this card, then when an awesome card comes down the pike 6 weeks from now and we say it's one of the top 3 cards of the year, you have no reason to believe us. We're always going to... Yeah, well, we don't work for the UFC. We don't work for ESPN. We work for Sherdog. And
I don't work for Sherdog.
I work for Sherdog. Yeah.
I do. Partly.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we
they might not want to claim me, but...
any other general thoughts about this before we dive into these prelims?
No, like the fights will still be good. Like, they'll be entertaining fights.
Oh, so. Absolutely. There'll be entertaining fights, and you know what? It's a 12-fight card. That's a good thing about it, because if they added 2 more fights to bring it up to the average, they wouldn't be good. So yeah, sometimes less is more.
Yeah, I think we might squeeze in some story time with Keith and the Ben files or something. Beef up this card.
Yeah. First up on the UFC Vegas 106 undercard is a strawweight matchup between Tecia Pennington and Luana Pinheiro. Pennington, the 35-year-old fighting out of Florida, originally from Fall River, Mass. I know that because of Keith, is 14-7 overall. She is, I believe, 10-7 since joining the UFC out of Invicta and season 20 of The Ultimate Fighter. She has had ups and downs over her UFC career. She was part of the inaugural class of strawweights. She was a title contender for a long time, took a few years off, got married, had kids. She's coming in off a win over fellow strawweight pioneer Carla Esparza. They fought at UFC 307 last October, where Pennington picked up a unanimous decision. That snapped a 2-fight losing streak for her, and she's going to look to keep the good momentum going against Pinheiro. 32-year-old Brazilian is 11-4 overall. She is 3-3 since joining the UFC out of season 4 of Dana White's Contender Series. That's the good news. The bad news is that her UFC run has been like an inning of baseball: 3 up, 3 down. She's on a 3-fight losing streak. The most recent of those was last November at UFC Fight Night Magny versus Prates, where she dropped a unanimous decision to Julian Robertson. She will look to avoid a almost certainly UFC cut slip inducing 4th straight loss. She is not favored to get it done here, as she is plus 280, Pennington minus 350 as your favorite. I'll say this. Tecia Pennington, the scouting report on her has really not changed much in the literal decade she's been in the UFC. The Tiny Tornado is possibly the most appropriate nickname in the entire UFC. She is tiny, she is fast moving, she spins a lot. There you go. She is a high volume, low power kickboxer who has good takedown defense when her takedown defense comes from her footwork. She has poor takedown defense when her takedown defense comes from her sprawl. Like, if you can catch her, get your hands on her, she can be put on the ground. Otherwise, women who can't cut off the cage end up chasing the Tiny Tornado around and getting pieced up. You shouldn't be able to get pieced up at distance by a 5'0" woman, but that's the power of Tecia Pennington. I'm uncomfortable on principle with her as an 3.5 to 1 favorite against any modern UFC strawweight. But if there's one it might be Pinheiro. Like I said off the top, the Pinheiro's UFC run, she won her first 3 fights. She lost her last 3. Some of that is she seems to have degraded a little bit. She's not the physical specimen. She's not the fast twitch athlete she was 4 or 5 years ago when she got to the UFC. Part of it, though, is that the 3-fight win streak to open her UFC run, I don't want to say it's smoke and mirrors, but maybe a little bit of baling wire, chewing gum, and duct tape. You look back at the 3 fights she won, to start her UFC run, that actually got her to the outskirts of the top 10, made her look like maybe a future title contender. She won by DQ over Randa Marcos, won a DQ early in an even fight doesn't tell you much. 2, Randa Marcos was in the middle of setting an all-time record for alternating wins and losses. I mean, if it was Randa Marcos' time to win, like that's just the universe working against you. Then she got a win over Sam Hughes, and that's right before Sam Hughes turned the corner and became a real good strawweight. Then the 3rd, a split decision win over Michelle Waterson Gomez. Like, when you sign with the UFC, you get 2 fight kits, you get a bunch of coupons for like 50% off some sandwiches in Las Vegas, and you get a split decision win over Michelle Waterson Gomez. Since then, Pinheiro's run into deeper waters. Like, except for getting lamped by Amanda Ribas, she's been competitive, but just kind of a step behind. And here's the problem. And if you're a regular listener of our show, you know there are certain things that Keith will say repeatedly in talking about fighters, and there are certain things that I'll say repeatedly. And so if I'm doing my Keith impression and I say fighter A is a long and lanky fighter, but they have poor head movement, they don't take their head off the center line, they back straight up to the cage, I'm not criticizing Keith. Keith says that a lot because it's true about a lot of women. So when I say that Luana Pinheiro is a good grappler who struggles to get fights to the ground at the time, place, and position of her choosing, like, why get creative? It's true of a lot of women, especially at strawweight and flyweight. It shouldn't be true of Pinheiro. Her first martial art was judo. Like, she was a competitive judoka who then picked up a black belt in jiu-jitsu, but judokas tend to have the opposite problem. They have an easy time getting people down, a tough time keeping them there because they're used to getting stood up 10 seconds later. For whatever reason, Pinheiro's she's entered that kind of Mackenzie Dern, old bad Jillian Robertson mold where she spends a lot of time chasing after women and looking for low percentage takedowns. Because of that, I am kind of comfortable with Pennington as the favorite here. There are a lot of big favorites on this card. I didn't lead with that because I don't want to spoil things for Keith. I'm going to surprise him with a few of them. But this is one where, again, I don't love Pennington at minus 350 against anybody, but if it's going to be anybody, I could see Pinheiro kind of chasing Pennington around, getting hit with kicks at range, Pennington, sliding out of the pocket laterally, not getting backed into the cage, and just kind of winning a ho-hum decision. Tecia Pennington, I think Tecia Pennington is awesome. I'm not taking anything away from her, but she is the kind of fighter who will have a fight where they'll be talking about how she's coming close to some striking record for the weight class, and you're still kind of bored. This is going to be one of those fights. Give me Pennington to win all 3 rounds in a Tecia Pennington fight, not a Luana Pinheiro fight.
Dude, that's so funny. I was first of all, why is this fight the first fight of the night? Other than Gilbert Burns, Tecia Torres is probably the biggest name on the card, and she's opened up the card. It's so funny you said.
And Luana Pinheiro is, and it only matters as a tiebreaker. What's most important is that you know how to fight, but she is high on the Instagram / OnlyFans fighters list. You'd think she'd be higher up the card just for that, but nope.
I was watching this movie with my family this week, called with Anthony Hopkins in it, called One Life, and spoiler alert. I'll give you a spoiler. It's about a guy who basically gets all the Czechoslovakian kids out of the area during the Nazis takeover of the country and saves like almost 700 kids. It's an incredible story.
It's like a Schindler's List type thing.
I'm so glad you said. I'm watching it and I'm like, I know it's really impressive, but this shit's boring. This is a boring ass movie. That's Tecia Torres. I'm like, I should be impressed by it. And the parts when they like going back to like what they kept flashing to Anthony Hopkins in the future, like being an old man, and you know what was happening to the children. And the part that was happening to the children was like you're on the edge of the seat, and the rest of the time you're like Anthony Hopkins is like making tea, and I'm like, I know it's Anthony Hopkins, so like it's supposed to be like. I'm supposed to be fascinated and see how brilliant the performance is and all that shit. It's just like Anthony Hopkins just being an old dude. I'm like, cool. And then I was like, yeah, I liked the movie better the first time when I saw it 30 years ago when it was called Schindler's List. So,
yeah, I mean,
incredible story. I'm not bad. Listen,
no.
Like,
and honestly, if a Holocaust movie is exciting, it's probably not going to be in a good way. So be boring. Yes.
Yeah, it's not like one Jewish guy like just beating the shit out of a bunch of doing like a Matrix scene. But they probably still put up a better fight than Pinheiro's going to do against Tecia Torres. So
we know Anthony Hopkins will bite somebody.
Yeah, there you go. Anthony Hopkins. This fight, so Torres. I mean, we kind of know what we get at this point. I kind of forget that she's still active. I think of her as retired.
She's only 35.
I know. It's crazy. She's young.
She's younger than Jasmine Jasdavicius.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's totally insane. Imagine what Jasdavicius would do to Torres now. But Torres, I mean, she fights on both stands. She's got nice footwork. She wins with volume. She stays on the outside, and then she suddenly blitzes in with combinations. Quick hands. She's always had quick hands. She attacks with combinations. But she's not a big hitter. She doesn't hit as hard as the friggin' sound of Ben's mic every time he takes a drink.
Sorry.
Holy Christ. I thought it was an avalanche. So she likes to close the distance, somehow she uses her height disadvantage well in the clinch. She's undersized, but she looks for judo throws in the clinch. She doesn't wrestle much from the outside. Though she is solid to take down because she's kind of hard to catch. If taken down, she will struggle to get back to her feet because she's smaller and she's got good cardio. She's never gassed out in a fight. Pinheiro, I agree with you said. She's a good athlete, but I agree that she's showed decline in that. She still moves well. She likes to kind of get her opponents to chase her on the feet and then does her best to kind of like dart into the mid range. She has high output on the feet. Though her fight against Angela Hill, she was super low output. It probably cost her the fight. A lot of things cost her the fight, but she shouldn't get subbed, so that cost the fight. But I mean, it wasn't going well before that. When she lets her hands go, she has good hand speed. She has plus power. I mean, she hurt Amanda Ribas a bunch of times, but she was loading up every single punch against Angela Hill. I think that was by far her worst performance. She likes to, set her strikes up to close the distance, get to the clinch. Where she's looking for judo throws, though it's weird. Like she'll give her back to hit judo throws. She gets a bunch of takedowns against Brandon Marcos, but then she couldn't take Angela Hill down at all. So it's like, I don't know what we got. She's a good scrambler, but she's a weak defensive wrestler. She struggled to get off the bottom against Jillian Robinson. She's a legit submission threat. She can catch a sub, but then she was subbed by Angela Hill. Which looked extremely bad, but her sub defense was better against Jillian Robertson, who's better than Angela Hill. So, and she has her gas take has been an issue. She gassed out against Sam Hughes. She gassed out against Amanda Ribas. So, Torres in her prime, I think would have trashed Pinheiro. Pinheiro is so inconsistent. She looks fantastic one fight, looks terrible in others. I am shocked that Torres is this big a favorite. I actually thought I was taking an upset. I thought Torres was going to be the underdog. I still think Torres is more trustworthy of the two. I still think she's faster than Pinheiro. Give me Torres by decision.
Men's flyweights take the cage next as Hyun Sung Park looks to remain undefeated against Carlos Hernandez. Park, the 29-year-old South Korean, is 9-0 as a professional. He's 2-0 since joining the UFC out of Road to UFC. So 4-0 in the octagon, counting those tournament fights. At any rate, he fought most recently, 18 months ago. It was December of 2023. It was at Fight Night Song versus Gutierrez, where he knocked out Shannon Ross in the second round. So he's looking to keep his record perfect, looking for his third straight official win in the octagon against Hernandez. 31-year-old Illinois native is 10-4 as a professional. He's 3-3 since joining the UFC out of season 5 of Dana White's Contender Series. He is coming into this fight off a win. He took a split decision over Nyam Jargal Tumendemberel at UFC Fight Night Yan versus Figueiredo. That was UFC Macau last November. He'll look to make it 2 in a row, and he is not favored to do so. Park is minus 160, Hernandez plus 130. We at SureDog run just, kind of a facts and figures column, usually every other month or so, just called the hit list. And it's a list of all the undefeated fighters in the UFC. And it's always surprising how many there are. Because if you ask even the average hardcore fan, okay, you got 5 minutes and a piece of paper, name all the undefeated fighters in the UFC, they'll probably come up with 10 or 12 of them, and there's always like 25. And the reason is there's people like Hyun Park, where they're 9-0, they've won 2 fights in the actual UFC against the lowest of low-level competition, and now they haven't fought in over a year, and so you just forget about them. Everyone just quickly rattles off, Chimaev, Morales, Rachmanov, and you don't get to the Hyun Parks of the world. Then my way around to saying, I don't know how good Hyun Park is. He looked solid on Road to UFC, and that was back in 2022. I think that was the first season of Road to UFC where I actually watched those fights. But his actual wins in the UFC were in the quote-unquote Road to UFC final against Sung-Guk Choi. That is, by definition, a fight where at best only one of them is probably UFC material. And then against Shannon Ross, who, fair play to him, was literally the lowest level flyweight in the UFC at the time they fought. So he's looked great against literally worse competition than, say, someone like Yadier Del Valle, who's making his UFC debut but has been fighting on the Contender Series, and then like Fury. I still have no idea how good Hyun Park is. He's 29 now, so when he was on Road to UFC and he was like 26 and was a good-sized flyweight with some physical strength, seemed to have well-rounded skills, it was easier to get excited about him. But now he'll turn 30 this year. To be 29 and just in your 10th fight, you're actually aging out of that prospect bracket. I'm interested to see what he's got, but I have a better handle on how good Carlos Hernandez is.
Hold on a second. Are you trying to tell me that 29-year-olds should have a bunch of fights and not like 7, and shouldn't be like top of the card and facing like 2-weight world champions with like 7 fights?
Well,
that's not the usual road.
Yeah, it's just it would be extremely premature to make sweeping judgments about the quality of that fighter or the quality of the component martial art that they came from to get into MMA. Certainly it wouldn't be an entire referendum on Korean MMA if Hyun Park goes out and gets upset by Carlos Hernandez, which is actually what I'm picking.
Well, I'll say American wrestling had a really rough week. Bo Nickel didn't have the worst week for American wrestling.
Yeah, Kyle Snyder. I almost think like Bo Nickel's manager called up Kyle Snyder and was like, "Yo, can you get the heat off us?"
If you gave me a list of if you said American gold medalists who've done that, wrestling, Snyder would be the last guy I'd named. Oh man.
Oh, sure. If there was some headline on SureDog, Olympic gold medal wrestler, dabbling in mixed martial arts, picked up for solicitation of prostitution, I'd be like, oh, damn it, Cejudo.
Yeah. Kevin Jackson, something like that. I just pray, for people who don't know, he was busted in a prostitution ring. I just pray that they didn't posed to be underage. I really pray he's not that kind of scumbag.
You know what? They let him go immediately with a court date. So really,
but that really don't mean nothing. We've had bail for murderers, so in my city, so like our last solved murder is out on bail. So anyways.
The article was really, really vague about the gender of the undercover cop. I'm picturing like just some 350-pound like male cop sitting cross-legged on the hotel bed. Just
that's like Snyder's. Like that's like what he likes.
That's his thing, man. You know, I got Gabby Garcia. He's got fuck. Oh, this is how badly I want to talk about Hernandez versus Park. Park has greater upside. He's a better athlete than Hernandez. I think he has better rounded skills. If Park says, okay, I'm going to keep this thing on the feet and just win a ho-hum kickboxing match against Hernandez, and if Hernandez shoots a bad takedown, then I'll pancake him, spin to his back, and like whoop him on the ground, I'd favor Park pretty strongly, but I'm not sure he's going to do that. Carlos Hernandez is a middling UFC flyweight, but he's definitely a UFC flyweight. He belongs on roster. He's beat some guys that are still on roster. Park has not. And Park's been gone for a year and a half. Like, give me Carlos Hernandez to hand Hyun Park his first loss here. Just, even if this was taking place like 4 months after Park's last fight instead of 17 or 18 months, I'd see upset value. Park just seems like a guy that hasn't run into the right guy yet. But yeah, give me Hernandez to make it ugly, kind of rush at Park, back him up, run him into the cage, clinch with him, try to drag him down to the mat. Yeah, give me Carlos Hernandez to win 2 rounds out of 3 just by kind of making it ugly and scrappy.
Yeah, this fight. Yeah, I love it. Dude, seriously, UFC, fire the guy who's making the order to the fights. So you go from one of the biggest names on the card, and Tecia Torres opening the card. Then you follow up with the undefeated fighter second. And I'm sure there might be some time thing going on, trying to get him in his homeland at a better time. But I can't imagine that because the UFC doesn't put a good time for American fans. So I don't think they care about international fans. But Park.
No, this is a company that will go to Sweden with Alexander Gustafsson and make the Swedes come out at 3 a.m. to watch him. Yeah. They don't give a shit.
Hey, it's still better than Bellator putting Michael Page and Paul Daly and Mohegan's son in Connecticut. And I was there in attendance. I'll never forget that one. Yeah, I agree. I really don't know what we have with Park. He's fairly. I'd say he's a well-rounded fighter. He's a good striker. He fights with a lot of pressure, tight boxing, fast hands, nice power jab. There's a good straight right. Throws a lot of combinations. I'd say his plus power. I mean, he crushed Shannon Ross with a body shot. He does throw naked leg kicks, so he's open to those. He's very hittable. He's got a lot of defensive issues. He pulls his head straight back. He pillars. He's a solid wrestler. If he gets the fight to the ground, nice back takes. He's a submission artist. He has 4 subs on his record. Moving to Hernandez, I think Hernandez is an underrated athlete. I think he moves pretty well. He's got good footwork. He cuts angles well in his attacks. He wants to be the one pressing forward, so that's something to watch in this fight. His boxing, he keeps everything tight, a lot of variety in strikes. I like his stepping knees, big kicking game, hard kicks to the body. He mixes striking and takedowns together well. He likes to battle in the clinch and dirty box a little bit. He's an underrated wrestler, good scrambling ability, looks to move position on the ground. He's got some solid back takes. He's got 4 subs on his record. He does need to improve his takedown defense. And he couldn't get up against Alan Nascimento when he was taken down. He gave up his back against Tainara Tyra in their match. But it appears that nobody can get Tyra off of them. He did show tremendous submission defense against Saruya, which was impressive. But you got to worry about his chin as he was recently knocked out. And he's got good cardio. So I think this is a really even contest. I kind of like both fighters. I think both are solid. I'm with you, though. We're got a consensus upset pick. I'm leaning towards Hernandez. I like his variety on the feet. I like his underrated wrestling. I like those step-in knees. I think we can see that going for him. I think both people will have their moments. I think Hernandez takedowns will win really close rounds. Give me Hernandez by split decision.
Next up at UFC Vegas 106 is a strawweight matchup between Elise Reed and Denise Gomes. Reed, the 32-year-old New Jersey native, is 8-4 overall. She's 4-4 since joining the UFC as the outgoing CFFC strawweight champ. She's alternated losses and wins in all 8 of her UFC fights. She's coming in off a win. She beat Jessica Penney at UFC Fight Night Hernandez versus Pereira last October. That means that by the pattern, she's due for a loss. She's obviously going to look to buck that trend. In order to do so, she's going to have to get past Gomes. 25-year-old Brazilian is 10-3 overall. She's 4-2 since joining the UFC out of season 6 of Dana White's Contender Series, and she is on a 2-fight win streak. Since dropping a decision to Angela Hill about 18 months ago, she has decision wins over Eduarda Moura and Karolina Kowalkiewicz. The most recent of those, the Kowalkiewicz fight, was at UFC Fight Night Magny versus Prates last November. So she'll be looking for her 3rd win in a row. She is favored to get it done. Keith, what number does the line on the favorite start with?
3.
Gomes minus 550, Reed plus 400. Now, this goes to something that I've talked about a few times, in that people, myself included, have underestimated Elise Reed. When Elise Reed came to the UFC, I thought of her as a low level talent, and that's considering that she beat Jasmine Jasudavicius at flyweight in CFFC. But watching that fight again before either of them got to the UFC, it was a fight that somehow brought down both of their stocks. In my opinion, like, watching that fight, I was like, I don't think either of these women is much for the UFC. And all of a sudden, Elise Reed is a solid and improving strawweight, and Jasmine Jasudavicius is a title contender at flyweight. Shows what I know, but when Reed got to the UFC, and especially when she debuted at flyweight and just got squashed by Sijara Eubanks, I was like, okay, I've got the book on Reed. She's a decent boxer, but she's not very athletic. She's not very physically strong. She might beat a few people at strawweight, but anyone within shouting distance at the top 20 is just going to squash her. And that was wrong. Reed is faster and more athletic than I thought. She's physically stronger than I thought. Like, she's lost a couple fights, but aside from the Eubanks fight, and again, Eubanks is a flyweight fuck it. Sijara Eubanks is a catchweight fighter. Her favorite weight to fight at is about 131 pounds, and she's an absolute bull of a human being. Outside of that, Reed has lost fights, but it's not been because she was, not physically strong enough. I've underestimated her, and I think the bettors that have forced the betting houses to install Gomes as a minus 500 favorite, and that was a reasonable line. Gomes is out there as high as minus 700 on some books. I think it goes to, again, underestimating Reed. Spoiler, I'm not calling for the upset here. I do like Gomez's upside. She seems to have found a solid new training home. That's, she was I believe she was part of the diaspora that happened when basically all the women in the UFC quit Parana Valle Tudo and went a million different places. Gomes is an outstanding athlete. She is an absolute bull physically. She has the kind of aggression that actually brings those gifts to bear on other women. Like, it's not exactly the same, but she has the kind of thing that prime Jessica Andrade had, that prime Claudia Gadelha had, where she realizes on some level, I'm faster and stronger than just about everybody I fight. So going at them and getting my hands on them is the best way to leverage that, because it doesn't, like, that stuff doesn't matter if I just sit and get pity patted from the outside. Because of that, I do think Gomes wins this one, but I think it's going to be actually a really close fight. Reed's jab, cross, they're sharp, they're fast. She's not a knockout artist, but they are stinging. She has better footwork. Actually, it's not that she has better footwork than I thought. I think her footwork's actually been improving. I think Gomes is going to struggle to catch up with her in the early going, but Gomes being much younger, again, stronger, more athletic. I think she's going to start wearing on Reed as the fight wears along. Unless Gomes gasses out badly, I think this is a pretty straightforward thing where she wins this fight by winning rounds 2 and 3. If Gomes wins round 2, but she's sucking wind at the end of it, then we have an interesting situation on our hands, and then it's split decision all day. And I have no idea who wins it, but if you've got a marker on Reed that's getting you plus 450 or something, you're going to be real happy. But yeah, give me Gomes by decision.
You can make an argument for this fight based on the divisions and the somewhat success they both had recently, that this could be the co-main event. The UFC wouldn't do that because they just hate the women's divisions other than the champions. But I think this is a fun matchups. I could agree with a lot you said about Elise Reed and Gomes. So Gomes, I think I'm a little higher on Gomes than you are. I mean, she's a solid striker. She wins with volume, constantly moving forward and throwing a lot of power shots, slip and rip style. She's dangerous because she drops her hands. I should say she's dangerous. She puts herself in danger because she drops her hands. But the same thing, she lands from weird angles because of it. She attacks with combinations. When she is heavy on her front foot, very boxing style, so she kind of shoulder rolls and stuff. And she's heavy on her front foot, so she's open to leg kicks. But all of that is because she's a power puncher. She has really good power. She really steps into her shots, has a great overhand right. When she tightens up her hooks, that's something that she can be really dangerous. She throws hard calf kicks. She got a fast high kick. She loves these like dumb spinning attacks, though. I was surprised how bad she got beat up in the clinch by Angela Hill, though. As far as the wrestling department, she's an okay wrestler. I do think her wrestling's like overrated. She has some quick entries, but she's not very technical in the wrestling department. Not a great defensive wrestler, though she did show improved takedown defense against Edgewater Mora. She looks for the switch when defending takedowns, which I've said this before. I just don't really think it works in MMA because of the whole lock in hands thing that you can't do in folk style wrestling. She also got headlocked by Loma Lubumi in their fight, and she struggled to get off the bottom against Angela Hill. I think I'm a little higher in the gas tank than you are. I think your read on Reed is spot on. I think she's super underrated. I don't. She's a minor athlete, but she makes the best out of it by being technical. She's a pressure striker. She wins with volumes. She has solid boxing, tight inside boxing, works behind a nice jab, follows with 1-2 combinations. She has underrated power, and that's because she sits on her punches. She does have some defensive issues. She keeps her chin a little too high for my liking, back straight up on the center line. She's also do the box style. She's heavy on her front foot, so she's open to calf kicks. Melissa Martinez had success kicking her legs, but she also threw a lot of calf kicks herself against Jessica Penne and had a lot of success with the calf kicks. She will close the distance to work in the clinch. She was this like grimy battle. She has some trips against Melissa Martinez in that fight. Good ground and pound. She is a bad defensive wrestler though. Struggles to get back to her feet. It was a long time ago, but she like almost got subbed by Hilly Rose, which I can't get out of my brain because she is not UFC level. And she was subbed by Loma Lubumi, but Loma's ground game is criminally underrated. I think Reed is a solid striker. I think she can hang on the feet. I think she could do really well there. She uses her movement, keeps everything tight, doesn't get drawn into a brawl. Gomes has the advantage in athleticism, definitely has the advantage in the power. I keep thinking Gomes might try to wrestle and get some takedowns, land some hard ground and pound. I do think the line is way off. And if you're a degenerate gambler, like I don't mind a bet on Reed. I feel very similar to you. Like I'm going to go with Gomes, but not at that price. But give me Gomes. I think she wins a decision.
Yeah. Just as a side note, I completely agree with you on the inside switch. That just the fact that you can lock your hands kind of renders it useless. So I think that's why the time I can remember working best was when Anderson Silva hit one on Dan Henderson. I mean, you think Dan Henderson's like 39 years old then. He has been wrestling for like probably 30 years of his life.
Sure.
So it works best against someone that has ingrained that he can't lock his hands.
Yeah, that's true. I feel like he hit one on Nate Marquardt too for some reason.
No, he loved it. He loved that for a minute.
Yeah, for some reason I keep remembering the Nate Marquardt fight. Yeah. I feel like he hit it on him.
Yeah, so
absolutely.
It works. It works best against great wrestlers and terrible wrestlers, is what we're saying. Like, women's bantamweights take the cage next at UFC Fight Night 256 as Luana Santos faces off against Tainara Lisboa. Santos, the 25-year-old Brazilian, is 8-2 overall. She is 3-1 since joining the UFC out of LFA. She is coming in off of a loss. She dropped a unanimous decision to Casey O'Neill at UFC 305 last August. That was at flyweight, as have been, I think, 3 of her 4 UFC bouts so far. She's up at bantamweight here. By the eyeball test, that sure looks like a good move. She is a tall, powerfully built woman. We'll see how it works out against Lisboa. 34-year-old Brazilian is 7-2 overall. She's 2-0 in the UFC. She hasn't fought in, I think, 20 months. October 2023, UFC Fight Night, Yusuf versus Barboza was the last time we saw her, but she picked up a win over Ravena Oliveira at that time. So she's 2-0 in the UFC against 2 women that are no longer on roster. That speaks, 1, to kind of the quality of her wins, 2, to the long layoff, but a win over Santos would be absolutely legit. Your favorite in this fight, Keith, is minus 150, underdog plus 120. Who are they?
Lisboa is the favorite?
It's actually Santos. Santos is minus 150, Lisboa plus 120. I'll flip this one to you first.
I'll pass it back.
Okay, pass it back. All I'll throw out there is, of these 2 women, Luana Santos is the one that, like, my first impulse is, okay, yeah, bantamweight's probably right. I don't feel the same way about Lisboa. Like, tell me if you feel differently and how you see this fight playing out.
Well, now that I'm thinking about when you asked me who's the favorite, I should have said Santos. I mean, just by her age alone, really. I mean, she's only 25 years old, so yeah. I like that. The problem is her striking. I mean, it looks good in some fights, but really raw in others. She likes to switch stances a lot. She wants to be the one pressing the action. She hated the pressure from Casey O'Neill. She uses feints well to set up her shots. She has got some tight boxing, but she's not technical. Like, her jab just doesn't exist. Like, she doesn't know how to throw a jab. She can be very right hand happy. She loves to dip and then throw a lot of overhand rights. She throws hard and she sits on her punches and she has nice power. And to her credit, she's not close to her power years yet. She knocked out Julian and Miller, but that KO hasn't really aged well. She likes to kick, but she doesn't set them up. She hit Stephanie Egger with side kicks a lot. She doesn't check kicks. She wants to be the one moving forward. She hates being pressured. Like I mentioned, Casey O'Neill, she did the same thing against Julian and Miller. She doesn't move her head much. She'll close the distance and she can work well in the clinch. She has a judo background. If she gets to the fight to the ground, she also has a BJJ black belt. She hit Maria Agapova with a great judo throw, but she'll give up her back to land a throw, which I absolutely hate. She has no entries from the outside. She has 4 subs on her record, and she quickly subs Maria Agapova, but she gasped a little against Stephanie Egger, so that's concerning. Lisboa is well-rounded. She's a good striker. She does a lot of L-step into cut angles, fast hands. She sets the shots up well with feints, works behind a good jab, throws combinations, quick 1-2 down the pipe, has some power in her hands. She lacks head movement, though. She will close the distance and work well in the clinch. I mean, she threw Jessica Rose Clark from the clinch right on her head. She's got some good grappling, nice back takes. She subbed Jessica Rose Clark, and she's hard to take down. Before tape study, I was leaning Santos. I mean, she's young. She can fix a lot of her problems, like just learning to throw straight punches. But after tape study, I'm going to go with Lisboa. I think she cuts angles to avoid the big shots from Santos. I think she can avoid the clinch. I think she can land 1-2s down the pipe and just outpointed from distance. Give me Lisboa by decision.
I like the pick, but no need to make it suspenseful. I'm on Lisboa as well here. My expectations for her were really modest when she got to the UFC. She was already 32 or something, and while she was a multiple-time Muay Thai world champ, you've spoken out before. If you've watched a Muay Thai fight, they'll give you a 4-foot tall. Somebody will give you a 4-foot tall trophy, and a belt with that weird frilly bunting on it. Everybody is a Muay Thai world champ in some organization, but no, she was a legit competitor. But I hear Muay Thai world champ really starting to take MMA seriously in their 30s. Is the ground game ever going to catch up? And then the ironic thing is that her ground game has arguably been the best part of her UFC run so far. She's tapping people out, she's throwing them around. She's been a pleasant surprise. I agree with the take on Santos, and the thing that, if anything, gives me pause about taking Lisboa in the upset, it's one, that Santos is much younger. Two, that Santos is physically bigger. When they're in the cage together, it's going to be a thing where I think Santos is going to look 10 pounds heavier. Santos did kind of gas out and have to hold on against Stephanie Egger. I give her a pass on that because Egger missed weight. So we're talking about somebody that had been at flyweight in her previous fight, all of a sudden fighting Stephanie Egger at 139 pounds. If the fighter who actually cut the last 4 pounds gasses out first, that's no less than expected. Because Lisboa has shown a surprisingly well-rounded skill set, I do slightly favor her here as well, in what I guess is a slight upset, just because I think she can piece up Santos from distance. And I also think she can punish Santos if Santos just gets frustrated, goes barreling in, and tries to, if Santos tries to grab Lisboa and headlock throw her, I think Lisboa's just going to take her back standing, drag her down, and that round, if not the fight, is over. That's what makes me more comfortable with Lisboa as the underdog, is that it is easy to picture her routes to victory, whereas Santos's best route to victory is to catch Lisboa with a massive shot. And that can happen. Lisboa has defensive issues, as you mentioned, but I'm not betting on it. So give me Lisboa in the mild upset as well. And all of a sudden, we have 2 unanimous upset picks in the first 4 fights of the card after I don't think we had any last week at all. So if you're a regular of the show.
No, we hit one. It wasn't when we picked, it wasn't an upset.
Oh, right. It was a pick 'em, and then it was.
Yeah, and we hit it too. I can't remember which fight it was, but we hit it. Daniel Santos.
Next up at UFC Vegas 106 is a featherweight matchup between Yadier Del Valle and Connor Matheus. If you are a regular viewer of the Shillan and Duffy show, you know that one of the defining differences between Keith and me is that I am a booster of my local MMA scene to a fault. Keith is, let's just say, he has a tough love approach towards New England MMA. This fight is Houston versus New England, and it's going to make both of us look right, I think. Yadier Del Valle, 28-year-old Cuban by way of Houston, a perfect 8-0 as a professional mixed martial artist. This is his UFC debut. After a standout run in Fury Fighting Championship, he fought on Dana White's Contender Series last October, where he took a unanimous decision over Antonio Montero. He'll look to keep his professional record spotless, look to get his first official UFC win against Matheus, who is unfortunately still looking for his first official UFC win as well. 32-year-old from Freetown, Massachusetts. Freetown is next to Fall River. Fall River is next to Rhode Island. Look at me with my New England geography.
That's right.
He is 7-3 as a professional. He's 0-2 since joining the UFC as a 2-time veteran of Dana White's Contender Series. He fought on season 6 and lost. Fought on season 7, picked up a decision win over Yadier Farias. That got him a ticket to the UFC, where he has back-to-back knockout losses to Dennis Bazookia and Jose Delgado. He'll be looking, again, to snap that losing streak, get his first win in the octagon. He is not favored to do so. Keith, Yadier del Valle is your favorite. What number does the line start with?
-250.
Yadier del Valle minus 450. Connor Matheus plus
I was saying it started with
-325.
I said it started with -250. I was still expecting a couple more zeros on that.
And obviously, I made the reference to this being Houston. Yadi is from Cuba, but he's lived in Houston for years. His entire MMA career has been while based in Texas. Versus Connor Matheus, who is
from Cuba.
Yeah, who's from Southern Mass. Having said that, I mean, this isn't a fair representation of the two. I've been high on Yadi as a prospect for a while. If you're watching this on YouTube, you see his picture right beneath this. I took that picture. That's anytime you see somebody in front of the infamous beige wall of the Bayou City Event Center, it's probably me backstage at a Fury fight, just snapping pictures on my phone of fighters that don't have a Fight Finder profile pic yet. What I like about Yadi is he's well-rounded. When you think Cuba, well, you think great amateur boxing and great amateur wrestling programs. He's been in the U.S. a little longer than that, but he is a well-rounded fighter. But the thing that I like best about him is that you can already tell that he's got some dog in him. He's a good athlete, but he's not an off-the-charts prospect. He's not Josh Van when you're looking at him. He's not Adrian Yanez when you're looking at him. He's had to kind of gut out wins, even at the regional level, but he's had no problem doing so. And a couple of his regional wins are solid. Like Michael Aswell is a guy that we'll probably see in the UFC or at least on the Contender Series at some point. So that's what I like about Yadi. He's not lost yet, but when he does lose, you're going to have to kill him to get him out of there. He does put himself in the best position to win. His boxing is the best part of his striking, and he does a good job to keep people who want to kick on the back foot, because he's also willing to turn to wrestling. That's easier to do from closer range. So yeah, he's just kind of a come forward grinder with decent power. You look at his record, he's 8-0, and I think 6 of them are by decision. That belies the amount of power he has. All of that is kind of moot, though, because Connor Matheus has yet to demonstrate that he's UFC material. I will keep saying this. If we do this show for another 10 years, if you have a win over Jay Ellis within the last 3 or 4 fights before you got to the UFC, you're probably not ready for prime time yet. And in the case of Matheus, I'll add, if you are how Dennis Bazookia got his first win in the UFC, that's probably an indicator that you're out of your depth as well. When you see him in like CES or Combat Zone, he is a solid regional fighter. Forgive me for saying so. He's a very New England style regional fighter. Like Jay Petrie said to me once, he described somebody as a Boston style face first striker. And that has stuck with me ever since. That's Connor Matheus.
Perrin or something like that.
No, we were going old school. He was talking about Alex Karalexis.
Okay.
Which, he had to be face first because he had the shortest arms this side of Artem Lobov. But,
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
But Matheus he's actually a good grappler. He's not a great wrestler, good grappler, good back takes. You look at his record, he's a rear naked choke specialist, but if you look at his actual fights, he comes by it honestly. He's slow on the feet, but on the ground, he's actually pretty fluid, nice back takes. He can keep he can stay busy enough from top position to keep from getting stood up and kind of soften people up to make a mistake. And at that point, yeah, he passes to mount, slaps them around until they give up their back. Like, he's good on the ground, but anytime your routes to victory all involve either us seeing something we've never seen before or your opponent making a gigantic mistake, that's when a huge betting line is justifiable. I don't mind Yadier del Valle as like a minus 400 favorite here for that reason. Just, he is a, solid, if not off the charts, featherweight prospect where, Matheus has shown very little spark in one of the best divisions in the UFC. I think this is going to be curtains for him. Give me Yadier del Valle to. I could see things being a little cautious in the early going. I could see it taking a couple minutes for Del Valle to really get untracked, but I think he's going to be hammering Matheus by the end of the first round. Give me Yadier del Valle by second round knockout.
Oh man. So the other day I was in Providence. They're working with two other detectives. And
wait, can I ask you a question real quick? How long does it take you to get to Providence?
From where I live or from my city that I work in?
Which is closer?
The city I work in touches Providence.
Oh, okay,
so
okay.
We're north of Providence. We're like the ghetto of Providence.
Okay. Like from where you live.
There's ghettos of Providence, but we're like the north ghetto. But downtown Providence is not far at all, like 15 minutes. Like
from your town where you live? Like
no, from my city to downtown Providence where the courthouse is and stuff like that. Where I live, it honestly really depends on traffic. But not far, 25 minutes. So
the reason I say that is that Del Valle's gym is 50 miles from me, and we both live in Houston.
50 miles? Yeah.
It would take me, with good traffic, I could get there in under an hour.
Yeah, like 50 miles to me is like probably past Mohegan Sun. Like I'd be like midway in Connecticut, and I go to Mohegan Sun. That's like a day trip. I'm not just going up to like visit for an hour, come back. Like that's a day trip. So, anyways, so we go in this. They say, hey, with this, they knew of this good sandwich place, in this part of Providence. I'm like, yeah, that's all right. We'll go there for lunch. And we go in there, and now I'm a very picky eater when it comes to sandwiches. When you're getting a grinder, like I want a hot grinder. I don't like cold sandwiches. That's just I'm like hot grinder. I want meatball. I want steak and cheese. I want chicken palm. Like that's what I want. Anyways, so I go to this place, and it's like you order, and it's very like you'd fit in. You'd love the place. I don't fit in. They're like young hippie people that like listen to the kind of music you like. Anyways, so this lady behind me goes up to me, and you either get weird interactions when people talk to you, or you get like the classic: you walk into a place, I didn't do it, like and you got to smile like I never heard that joke before. Like every single day when we walk into any place, or they point at their buddy and they go, he did it. Like, yeah, I've never heard that joke either. So this lady comes up to you and goes, so what do you guys like? Security? No, this is a sandwich place. It's a no. Oh, Ben, it gets so much better. It gets so much better. It's this like little sandwich place. It's like the size of like a Subway. Like, yeah, I mean, you guys have Subways and where you live, right?
Yeah, we do.
I'm assuming your Subway. I mean, everything's bigger in Texas, but I'm assuming your Subways are pretty much the same size as our places. So it's a regular sandwich.
The sandwiches are still a foot long.
Yeah, so it's a regular sandwich place, and I'm like, no. And she's like, well, are you security for Donald Trump? And I'm like, no. I respond, I go, no, I'm a detective. And she's like, for Donald Trump? And I joke and I go, no, I think I could get paid more if I was detective Donald Trump. But also like there wasn't like a speaking engagement where Donald Trump was anywhere near Providence. I'm like, what? But so then she goes, so you can open carry? And I'm like, yeah, I'm a detective. We're detectives. Like the badge is right there, clearly says detective. Like we're like wearing our city's like logos on our shirt and everything. And I say, I'm a detective. And she goes, for like a private company? And I'm like, no, I'm a detective for a city.
Like, have you never heard of the police? Like, this is so weird.
You never heard of detective before? And she's like, but I'm trying to be nice, but I'm like, no, I'm a detective for a city. And then she's like, oh. Then that was like the other conversation. But like, I would get a little annoyed. Like so I get my sandwich and then like 5 minutes later, the lady comes up to me and goes, so you're police? And I go, and I get really annoyed. I'm like, are you messing with me? Like, you've never heard of detective before? Like, you've never watched a movie with a detective before? She's like, well, you're not wearing.
Oh, she was just puzzled because you weren't wearing like the blues.
Yeah, we're wearing regular, like we're wearing detective clothes. But we're not even wearing like I'm wearing a polo with all three of us actually wearing similar polos. So finally, there's an Amazon truck. I go back, like I'm just messing around. I'm the Amazon, I'm the Amazon driver. Anyways, I bring that story up because I think I'd rather talk to that lady for another 5 minutes than talk about this fight. So, Kyle, listen, you look at this guy's record. You talk about Jay Ellis, and yeah, obviously that's the worst. But you look at his record before he got his first contender series fight against Francis Marshall. He fought one guy who had a winning record before that. Oh, I'm sorry, the two guys. There was two guys. One guy had a 2-1 record, and the other guy was 5-0, and he lost that to that guy who was 5-0. When I watch him, I don't see a UFC level fighter. Now, will he maybe beat someone one day in the UFC? Maybe, but like, he's not good. He's not going anywhere. He's a long and lanky fighter. He's a southpaw. He wins with volume. He's a slip and rip guy. He's good at changing stance and mid combo. He was getting in the pocket against Bazooka, and for some reason he was hesitant to let his hands go, and he ate blows because of it. He was struggling with the speed of Dennis Bazooka. And Bazooka, I'd say, is like a decent athlete, but it's not like he's not the most blazing fast guy. Matheus has some power. He throws a lot of kicks, especially to the body from the orthodox stance. His wide stance leaves him open to get his own legs kicked. He has tons of defensive issue, keeps his chin high in the air. He wants to get to the fight to the ground. And I think he's a more opportunistic wrestler than he is a traditional one. Like, he's a guy who will catch a kick to get the fight to the ground, kind of bull rush over a guy. He's a good grappler. He advances his position on the ground. He's got 5 subs. He has cardio to go hard, but I'm worried about his chin. The dude's been knocked down in back-to-back fights. Del Valle, southpaw, good volume on the feet, really steps into his shots. He likes a brawl. He can overthrow his shots, and which leaves him open to be countered against a really good crisp striker. He also can square up a little bit at times, which is concerning. He has a lot of defensive issues. He keeps his chin high in the air. He's a bit of a stationary target, standing right in front of his opponent. He throws hard kicks. He can work well in the clinch. Really beautiful elbows in his last fight in the clinch in the contender series. Nice knees inside. He has a judo background. He will look to wrestle a little bit. If he gets to fight the ground, I love his ground and pound. He has a BJJ black belt. Problem is he'll jump guillotine. He has a good guillotine to his credit, and if he jumps guillotine, he's shown ability to get back up. He did gas himself a little bit in the contender series matchup, but a lot of that had to do. He went all out early in the second round trying to get a finish. So, yeah, I mean, we got Houston versus New England, Shillan area versus Duffy area. I actually think this is a winnable fight for Matheus. He's the more technically sound fighter of the two. That said, New England never wins. I think Duval puts the volume on him. I think Matheus crumbles under the pressure. I think Duval finishes him in the first round. Give me Duval by first round TKO. Like I said, New England never wins. I'm so sure of it. This is my lock of the night. I get that Duval is too big of a favorite to bet him alone. So if you're making a bet, just throw Del Valle into the parlay because it's free money. He won't lose. It's free. I guarantee this is free money. Del Valle will.
And if you are the betting type, there are a couple fights in this card that the lines are ridiculous, but you could throw them together into maybe a reasonably priced parlay. We'll get to the others and it'll be real obvious. Next up at UFC Fight Night 256 is a lightweight matchup between Jared Gordon and Thiago Moises. And this is the strangest kind of mirror match. Both guys have 8-6 UFC records. One has come from New York City. One's come from the middle of Brazil. They meet in Florida, or at least, their training camps meet in Florida. Should be an interesting one. Gordon, 36-year-old from Queens, 20-7 with 1 no contest overall. 8-6 with 1 no contest since joining the UFC as the former CFFC featherweight champ. While he was a featherweight on the regional scene, he quickly, after one weight miss of his own, one weight miss of his opponent's, moved up to lightweight where he has stayed ever since. He's coming in off a loss. He fought most recently at UFC on ABC, Whitaker versus Alaskarov last June, where he dropped a split decision to Nasrat Haqparast. Prior to that, he had a first round pounding out of Mark O. Madsen. So he's looking to get back in the win column, prove that at the very least he is still a reliable action fighter, gatekeeper to the stars at lightweight. Moises, arguably looking for the same thing. Maybe some of the young prospect shine gone, as the Brazilian is finally 30 years old. Just turned 30. He's 19-8 overall. He is also 8-6 in the UFC. He is coming in off a win. He picked up a unanimous decision over Trey Ogden back in January at UFC Fight Night, Dern versus Kibas 2. He has, in fact, alternated wins and losses over his last 5 fights, stretching back over 2 years at this point. He would love to snap that streak and get back into the win column here. This is the only true pick 'em on the card. Both gentlemen are out there at minus 110. Keith, once upon a time, Thiago Moises looked like a possible future contender, but I said that Luana Pinheiro's early UFC run was not so much smoke and mirrors as kind of, duct tape and baling wire. Moises, it's a little of the same thing. He got to the UFC, and I think just because he was young, he looked the part of a great prospect, just kind of like a built, athletic-looking guy, and got a couple of wins that looked great at the time and have not aged well. He was just thrust into top 10 level opposition way too fast. Like beating Michael Johnson, Bobby Green, and Alexander Hernandez in a row. Those might be the 3 most inconsistent fighters in the lightweight division over the last decade. Thiago Moises could go pull that slot machine handle again, get different Michael Johnson, different Bobby Green, different Alexander Hernandez back in 2020, and maybe he goes 0-3. Most of the time, I think he probably goes 1-2 or 2-1.
Sure.
And as a 24-year-old prospect, he gets more time to develop. Instead, he beats those 3 guys, and they throw at Islam Makhachev. He gets trucked by Makhachev in one of the biggest beatdowns of 2021. And the next thing they do to him is put him against this basically unknown Spanish guy named Joel Alvarez. Thiago Moises, it's almost like the Eric Silva thing 10 or 15 years ago. He came to the UFC so young, showed some promise, and now it's almost a punchline. Oh, Thiago Moises is just going to turn that corner eventually.
Yeah.
I think what we have now is what Thiago Moises is. He is a very good grappler who is an improving striker, but despite how he looks, he's not a great athlete. And it actually hampers his striking and it hampers his offensive wrestling. So his routes to victory really are dependent on matchup a lot of the time. Gordon is kind of the opposite. He had no obvious upside. He was a little on the old side when he got to the UFC. He is he's 8-6 with 1 no contest. And he's gone with little streaks, but the streaks he's gone on were against guys that were recognized as being kind of low level at the time. He's always been a mid-card dude, just his role has always been to be a stern test for the kind of guy that we thought Thiago Moises was, and otherwise a reliable action fighter, card filler for, middle prelims. He's overachieved a little bit. I think he got some love for giving Paddy Pimblett such a tough fight at a time when everybody hated Pimblett so bad and was just dying to see him, get derailed. But the thing is, Gordon is going to fight to his best advantage every time out. He knows what he's good at. He's a well-rounded guy. While he's not a great athlete either, nobody ever accused him of being one. He's a hard-nosed dude that knows that on a scale of 1 to 10, he's probably a 5 or 6 everywhere, but he's smart enough and well-coached enough to try to go at his opponent at their weaknesses. Because of that, if Gordon is smart, he tries to keep things standing against Moises, and he tries to keep things, I think he's a better puncher than kicker, he's going to want to try to keep Moises from getting his hands on him, because Moises' best takedowns generally do come from the clinch and against the cage. So Gordon's going to have to be smart and disciplined enough to kind of try to have a fight in space, try not to be too exciting, because trying a head kick or getting into the pocket and overswinging is what's going to allow Moises to catch a kick or grab a body lock and haul him down. And while Gordon is a very good grappler, he showed that against Pimlet, he doesn't want any of Thiago Moises on the ground. So Gordon kind of has to thread the needle here to get the win. I do like that this is a pick'em, but give me Gordon. It'll take a disciplined game plan, but he can do that, and I think he will. Give me Jared Gordon to win a decision here.
You said there's a pickup. I wonder if the line will move and who will be the favorite come fight night. I think he got a good read on this fight. Gordon, I think you described him perfectly. He's never been like our guy, when you think about guys that we talk about, guys that we would pump up, the guys we always think are underrated, but he does fit that category. Not a great athlete, but he just makes up for being tough as hell. I mean, he's high output. I think he's an underrated tactical striker. I think he's more technical than you think. Can fight at both stances, tight boxing, throws a power jab from the southpaw stance. He isn't a great athlete, so that kind of limits how dangerous he can be. He's not very explosive, not a lot of power. So he kind of needs to win by being technical. He also very hittable. Like defense is secondary to him, not his first plan. He pillows the voice strikes, which I don't like. He does well in the clinch, though. He doesn't mind tiring his foe, grinding clinch. I mean, everyone talks about the Paddy Pillman fight. Like, that's an example of it. Good clinch striking. He did it against Paddy Pillman, but he also did it against Mark Madsen. I think he's a decent wrestler. I mean, I was impressed with how he out-wrestled Chris Fiscal in that fight. He wrestles a lot more than you think. And he's got the best mindset for it. Like, he will shoot and shoot and shoot and doesn't care if you stop 100 takedowns. He eventually got to get one. He's a good grappler, good top control, good ground and pound. But ultimately, he might want to get the fight to the ground, but he just wants to outwork his opponent. He's going to make it tough. Even in a win, he's going to make it tough for 15 minutes. And he's got incredible cardio. Now, Thiago Moises, he's not a great athlete. He's a little flat-footed. He doesn't have the best output on the feet. His boxing isn't too bad. We think of him as a grappler first, but he can keep everything tight. He's got some quick hands, he's got some plus power. He's got a solid kicking game, hard kicks to the body, good leg kicks. He stopped Mitch Ramirez with calf kicks. Defensively, he eats a lot of shot due to his lack of head movement, but he mixes takedowns and striking attempts together well. He wants to get to the fight the ground. I don't think he's the best wrestler. I think he's kind of the opposite of Gordon, where I think his wrestling's grossly overrated. He's got good timing if you over pursue on his reactionary takedowns, but he struggles to drive through the hips. He's not. I think he's the guy that he's shooting takedowns in the jiu-jitsu class, where half the time his opponent's pulling guard when he does it. He's not going into a wrestling room and driving through the hips and get to the second level. He will often just shoot to try to close the distance, and then he'll pull guard himself. He's a very, very good BJJ practitioner. Good top control. He has no issue stalling on top. When we saw that in his last fight against Thiago, he take it down, hold it down. He's got 8 submission wins in his career. I always remember when he dropped down to the ankle against Michael Johnson, almost cut Bobby Green in the similar submission. I am worried about his chin, though. I mean, he was hurt by Ludwig Klein multiple times in that fight. I don't have a good read on this fight. It's probably because I don't have. I think I understand what Gordon is. I don't know if I have a strong read on Moises. He looks good in some fights. He looks terrible in others. Based on his age, he can still make improvements. If you told me one of these guys made a run to top 10 contendership, then I'd bet all my money it's Moises. Sure. He definitely has a higher upside. I think Moises will try to wrestle Gordon. I just think he's going to struggle to get him down. I expect him to do well with calf kicks early, but I think Gordon's volume is going to take over late. I think Gordon's going to come on strong late. I think he's going to steal the second round and then win the third. So give me Gordon by split decision.
I love it. And you mentioned that if either of these guys makes a run and is a top 10 fighter, it's almost certainly Moises. I mean, he's already done it once. I agree, but by the same token, if one of these guys loses their next 3 fights and they're out of the UFC a year from now, it's Moises.
Yeah. Gordon is still in the
still, yeah.
Absolutely, 100%. I actually forgot that Moises was a top 10 guy at one point.
Yeah. Next up at UFC Fight Night 256, and at least as the card is constituted as of the beginning of fight week, the top prelim is a lightweight matchup between Gabe Green and Matheus Camilo. Green, the 32-year-old from Downey, California. Downey, California, best known as the hometown of James Hetfield. Only time will tell if Gabe Green is sleeping with one eye open at the end of this fight. 11-5.
Nice job.
Thank you.
Oh, that's nice job.
11-5 overall, 2-3 in the UFC. He joined the UFC back in 2020 as a short notice COVID era replacement. Up a weight class. He had fought primarily at lightweight regionally, debuted at welterweight, decided to stay there, went 2-3. He is now dropping to 155 pounds on the back of consecutive losses to Ian Gary and Brian Battle, which I'm just going to say, that is mean to do to a kind of middling guy. Anyway, dropping to 155, where he will meet the debuting Camilo. 24-year-old Brazilian is 9-2 overall. He fought most recently back in December at Zombie Fight Night 2, where he took a unanimous decision over Dorobshak Nabatov. Why am I bothering to mention that? Because depending on how engaged you are with UFC news, you may or may not know the story here. Dorobshak Nabatov was an undefeated Central Asia prospect who basically crashed a UFC press conference last year, told Dana White through a translator, I'm a 9-0 prospect, give me a contract. Dana did not give him a contract because if he does that, every press conference from now until the end of time is going to be a complete shit show. But what he did was said, okay, go fight in Korean Zombies promotion over in Korea, and let's see how you do. He got Matheus Camilo. Camilo ruined things by winning a pretty straightforward unanimous decision over Nabatov. So Nabatov is not in the UFC. Matheus Camilo is, and he's going to make his debut here. He is a moderate favorite. He's minus 225. Green is plus 180. There's a lot to like about Matheus Camilo. He's only 24 years old. I've seen a good amount of his fights just because, he fought over in Korea, got that little shine on him, but his pro career until then has taken place largely in Texas. He's fought on Fury cards numerous times. He has a win over Jake Heffernan, who, full disclosure, is a very solid local prospect. One of my professors, like he's basically Alex Morono's second in command over there. Like, he is a black belt under Alex. He is a pro fighter himself, and he teaches a lot of the classes. Jake is a guy that actually was scheduled to be on the season of Tough and had, he's open about this. He actually shot himself in the hand, like cleaning a gun that had not been cleared. That put him on the shelf for like over a year.
That's so Texas. Did I have a friend who did the same thing? Did the same exact thing?
Yeah. At any rate, Jake is a real good fighter. He's a very good grappler. That Camilo just kind of ran over him on the ground was very impressive. So he's a guy that probably would have found his way to the UFC sometime this year or early next year anyway. But the thing to like about Camilo is he's young. He's a very solid fighter with some inborn physical gifts. He's a big dude for the weight class, and he's a pretty good athlete, but he doesn't have the kind of eye-popping regional highlight reel that's going to get him thrust into the spotlight or into top-level fights too early. He's a guy that really is going to probably kind of be able to sneak up on people, because you know what? He's going to wreck Gabe Green here, and he's not going to get much credit for it because Gabe Green is a guy that's already below 500 in the UFC and kind of obviously dropping from welterweight to lightweight to try to avoid getting cut. So I think Camilo's going to handle Green and, again, keep being able to sneak up on this division. Green is... you have a better read on the actual technical quality of his boxing than I will. what I'll say is he's a willing striker. Like he's happy for the fight to go wherever it will. He's not comfortable when people engage him in like a technical kickboxing match from outside, but he's willing to get down in the pocket and brawl. For a guy that's been undersized in all of his UFC bouts, like talent aside, he looked ridiculous in the cage against people like Danny Rodriguez, Phil Rowe, Ian Gary. He just looked ridiculously undersized. Yeah. But until Brian Battle absolutely sparked him in 15 seconds, he hadn't really paid too badly for getting into those brawls, even against bigger guys, harder hitters with better reach. Just he's a scrappy dude. But one, I think Camilo could probably strike with him from the outside if he wanted to, but I think he's just going to take advantage of Green's kind of willingness and tendency to charge in, body lock, trip him to the ground, and go to work on the ground. Camilo's a very good grappler. I think he gets Green out of there by first round submission. And again, it won't, like, unless he does something spectacular, like, God forbid, like, break his arm or something, it's not going to make any sub of the year list or even probably get him a performance bonus. But, like, watch out for Matheus Camilo. He's a very good prospect.
Yeah. How about the UFC? They did this promo about looking for the fight coming out this week. And the promo actually was very done well to get you excited to see how this guy did. But all you had to do, they announced who he was going against. And all you had to do is just check and see that Camilo is fighting this weekend and be like, oh, so Camilo wins. I mean, come on, guys. They fell asleep like they were Enter the Sandman in that one. But let's go to this one. I mean, Green, he's the one that's moving down. We haven't seen him fight in 2 years, so it's really hard to know what we're going to get. I think I like his striking. He's definitely, he's not like the seek and destroy type striker, but he's a good striker. He can fight out of both stances. He can win guys just by pressing the action. Now, moving on to lightweight, we'll wonder if that'll be the case. But I think he'll be able to get inside better. He's constantly taking ground. He's a guy that's willing to eat a shot to land one of his own. He was doing that, like you mentioned, against Daniel Rodriguez. He came at Brian Battle like a crazed man, and he ran straight into a short right hand that put him out. And you know how that goes. To whom the bell tolls, time marches on. He I don't know what the hell I'm doing with that one. He was struggling to get inside a lot against Ian Gary. He keeps his hands low, so he throws some really weird angles, but he throws hard looping shots, similar to like how Fedor used to fight. Again, when he gets in the pocket, he's pretty dangerous. And again, I'm not saying he's Fedor. The guy's got to lose the record in the UFC, but he throws some thudding leg kicks. I think he's a solid wrestler. He has a submission threat if he gets to fight to the ground. He's got 5 subs on his record, and he has the cardio to go hard all 15 minutes now. Camilo's only 24, so you love that. He's got lots of area for growth. Some things so I watched his last fight, and he hated the pressure from his opponent. And I'm not gonna try to get the guy's name, but on the Dana White looking for a fight. But when he's letting his hands go, when he's working, good.
Aren't you glad that Matheus Camilo is the name that you have to learn?
Yeah, that's hard enough for me. But, so he's got good boxing. He's a bit of a stationary target, very like Muay Thai style. He stands directly in front of his opponent. Uses a lot of feints, which I like. A little bit of low output, too many single strikes, but he works the body well. I like that. He's got good power, and he's still kind of young. He really steps into his shots. Now he's not super technical on the feet. It's sad but true, but he can overthrow his shots. He's got some hard calf kicks. He can sneak in a takedown, but I wouldn't call him a wrestler. I think you're higher on his wrestling than I am. He's a weak defensive wrestler. Now he is a good grappler. I agree with that. He will struggle to get off the bottom, but he's a submission threat. He throws up subs quick. He only has 2 subs on his record. But don't be deceived that he can grapple. We saw him almost submit the guy in the Contender Series. So yeah, I definitely think the UFC wants Camilo to win. But at the end, the only thing that matters is the fighting. I mean, nothing else matters. Who's
Agreed.
We went the entire night without disagreeing. I'm calling the upset, dude. I'm a Green guy. I kind of believe in him. I like Green here. I think he presses the actions to Camilo. I think this might be too much too soon for him. I think he forces Camilo on his back foot. I think he lands a takedown or two. I think his volume overwhelms Camilo. I want to say Green not only gets done, he's going to get a stoppage. Give me Green by third round TKO.
All right, let us turn the page to the five-fight main card of UFC Vegas 106, which begins with a featherweight matchup between Julian Erosa and Melquizael Costa. Erosa, the 35-year-old Washington State native, is 31-11 overall. He is 9-7 across 3 separate stints with the UFC. That's a little deceptive. He's 9-7 across 3 separate stints with the UFC, but the first 2 were complete washes. Since being back, he is 8-3 and on a 3-fight win streak right now. He's already fought once this year. In fact, he fought fairly recently. He fought back in April at UFC 314, where he knocked out Darren Elkins in the first round. Prior to that, he fought twice last year. Both of them were first-round submissions over Ricardo Ramos and Christian Rodriguez. So the man who was once a multiple-time UFC washout, then kind of a hyper-aggressive highlight reel curiosity, is all of a sudden on a 3-fight win streak against pretty solid competition. He'll look to make it 4 here.
And Darren Elkins.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like Elkins quite a step down for Christian Rodriguez and Ricardo Ramos, if anything.
Yeah.
But Costa represents a step back up and then some, as Costa is on a bit of a streak himself. The 28-year-old Brazilian is 23-7 overall. He is 4-2 in the UFC, and he is on a 3-fight win streak of his own. He's already fought twice this year. Back in February, guillotined Andre Fili in the first round, then came back in March at UFC on ESPN, Moreno versus Urseg, where he took a unanimous decision over the same Christian Rodriguez. Julian Erosa versus Melquizael Costa would have sounded like a hell of a fun time to me anytime within the last 3 years. We're talking about, again, 2 hyper-aggressive guys. Costa, bit of a knockout artist turning into an equal opportunity finisher. Erosa, an incredible equal opportunity finisher who's all of a sudden turning into a divisionally relevant fighter. So this would have been a great fight. Again, it would have been a Shillan and Duffy highlight fight anytime within the last few years. But for these guys to be meeting with dueling 3-fight win streaks and the possibility that the winner might actually make our Sherdog rankings discussion, at least, in maybe the toughest division in the UFC. I mean, unbelievable. The line is semi-close. Favorite is -180, underdog +150. Who are they, Keith?
Costa's the favorite.
You're correct. And I understand why Costa is the favorite. I haven't looked at the props, but if there's a prop for fight ends before the midpoint of round 2, that's what you want to hammer. Again, they're on dueling 3-fight win streaks. 5 of the 6 fights are finishes. 4 of the 6 fights are first round finishes. These are 2 guys that don't know how to take a step backwards. The interesting thing about Julian Erosa is he started to string wins together against decent fighters without changing his approach too much. He's still incredibly defensively porous on the feet, has all the worst tall man striking defense bad habits. Costa is a guy who approaches fights wanting to punch the other guy out and is more about opportunistically jumping on a guillotine or, taking someone's back and trying to choke him. I like both these fighters. I mean, Erosa is becoming an obvious shoo-in for the Hall of Fucking Awesome whenever he hangs it up. But the clash of styles here, Erosa gets hit cleanly in just about every fight. People that Melquizael Costa hits cleanly, he's one of the guys. The UFC booth loves to overstate people's knockout power. I mean, obviously, they're there to comment on the fights, but they're also there to sell you the fights. So they're there to basically convince you that a lopsided fight is closer than it really is, or that a fighter with power is always one punch away from winning it. It's not too much of an exaggeration with Costa. For a featherweight, I mean, he will overswing, but he also has great power when he just kind of sits down on his punches and catches dudes. In fact, I think he's actually a more dangerous knockout artist when he's more disciplined, because that's when he catches people coming in. He catches people with their hands down. Erosa, like I say, he's been improving. This is the kind of fight I hate to pick, because if you're wrong, you're going to be real, real wrong. There's another fight on this card like that, but I've got to go with Costa here. This fight is every fight starts on the feet. These guys are going to meet in the middle of the cage. Erosa will try to keep things at a distance with a couple of long kicks, and then he'll try a spinning back elbow the first time he thinks Costa's really trying to collapse the distance. It's an Erosa thing. Costa's going to be wise to it, and I think he's just going to lamp Erosa. Give me Melquizael Costa by first round knockout. But for the record, my second most likely outcome would be Erosa by first round knockout. Like, this thing's probably not getting out of the first round.
Yeah, man. Well, dude, we broke it down Julian Erosa fight so many times. I mean, people know what they get. The guy's, I'm not going to bother breaking down his skills. I mean, the guy's a brawler. He wants to swing it out on the feet. Good teep kicks, underrated wrestler, bad defensive wrestler, though. He has a submission threat. He'll jump guillotine. He's got a great guillotine. I mean, he's subbed Ricardo Ramos and Christian Rodriguez with the guillotine, so that's definitely something to watch out for. And cardio is a weapon, but he's like you said, he's a kill or be killed. He'll swing the fence and he don't care. Costa, he's getting up there too for a guy that we break down a lot. Well, Erosa's like in that category of guys that we just love. Costa to me is, we both were kind of on this guy before other people were. I like him a lot. Southpaw, he can switch stances. He's a really good striker, especially from distance. Works behind a crisp jab, follows up with solid combinations. Absolutely right about his power. Way more power than he gets credited with. He'll throw some spinning attacks. He's got a very big kicking game. I mean, beat up Austin Lingo with kicks. He will throw some naked kicks, so he's open to be countered, something that I think that'd be Erosa's best avenue of actually stepping in and just starching him with a big shot. Nice kicks to the body from the orthodox stance. He loves teep kicks, loves stepping knees. He's a solid offensive wrestler. He kept getting the same foot sweep against Christian Rodriguez. He's a weak defensive wrestler though, but he's a very good grappler. He's super good at scrambling, mean ground and pound, slick back takes. He's a submission threat, super slick off his back if you put him on his back. He's been on the UFC for a short time. He's already got 2 subs there. He was subbed by Thiago Moises, but I'll give him a pass for that. Very good, hard to hold down. I'm a little worried about his chin, as he ate some shots and eventually got knocked out by Steven Garcia. But Garcia can crack. But I'm with you. I like Costa here. I just think he's better than Erosa everywhere. I think he wins on the feet. I think he wins on the ground. I think he hurts Erosa. You went first round. I'm going to say go a little deep. I'm going to say second round. I just keep picturing like a step-in knee followed by hard ground and pound. Costa by second round TKO.
Next up on the UFC Vegas 106 main card is a middleweight matchup between Dustin Stoltzfus and Nursultan Ruziboyev. Stoltzfus, the 33-year-old Pennsylvanian by way of Germany, is 16-6 overall. He's 3-5 in the UFC. He is coming in off a win. He fought most recently at UFC Fight Night Moreno versus Albazi back in November, where he knocked out Marc-Andre Barrio in the first round. He will look to keep the good vibes going here against Ruziboyev. The 31-year-old Uzbekistani is 35-9-2 with 2 no contests overall. He is 3-1 in the UFC. Worth noting that he's 3-0 at middleweight. His one loss in the UFC is the result of his one-off experiment at welterweight, where he dropped down almost exactly a year ago and dropped a unanimous decision to Joaquin Buckley. He moved back up to 185 pounds for his first fight this year, where he met Eric McConaughey at UFC Fight Night Cejudo versus Song and knocked him out early in the second round. So he's staying at 185. He is in against Stoltzfus, trying to get a new win streak going, and he is comfortably favored as he's minus 300, Stoltzfus plus 225 coming back. Keith, I'm going to flip this one to you. I'm just going to point out that of these two guys, one of them really, really did not look like he needed to try his luck at welterweight. Like, Nursultan Ruzaboyev is huge. I'm not saying, like, he's gigantically broad, but he's super it's like looking at someone like, I don't know, like Josh Fremd or something and saying, maybe that guy would do better down a weight class. Like, just, there was no reason, and it didn't go his way. In fairness to him, he stepped right into a matchup against Joaquin Buckley that might have propelled him into the top 15 if he'd won. But, he's back to 185. I think that's healthier for him. Let me know if he justifies his minus 300 line here against Stoltzfus.
Well, I think it could be twofold. Like, he is really good, which would, like, make him a big favorite. But on the flip side, like, should he be this big? No, because of how I think Stoltzfus is good. So I think it's like, it's not a knock on Ruzaboyev, but more of like a promotion of Stoltzfus, or a backing of Stoltzfus. So I think it's actually one of the fights I'm pretty intrigued in. Stoltzfus, I mean, he's a guy that I think he's tricky. He fights out of both the orthodox and southpaw stance. He loves his overhand right. He'll toss out some spinning attacks. He has some pop. I mean, he dropped Puno Soriano with one shot, and he has a little bit of Julian Erosa in him, where he's like, he gets a spectacular knockout. Or I shouldn't say get spectacular, but he's got more power, or he can get absolute starch too. He has a big kicking game, though he doesn't check leg kicks. He's a very good wrestler. He likes to wrestle a lot. Not the best defensive wrestler, but he's a good grappler. Slick back takes against Dwight Grant. He's got 8 subs on his record. He got a knee bar in a fight, a leg lock. He goes for twisters. He subbed Puno Soriano. I am worried about his durability, though, as he was knocked out by Bruno Fajeda. I mean, obviously, Bruno Ferreira, you just look at the guy can crack. Ruzaboyev, I mean, he's very large for the weight class, with long and lengthy guy. He's well-rounded, good striking, fast hands, accurate, long strikes from range. Though he can be a little too right-hand happy. He has good power. I mean, he showed that in his debut against Eric McConaughey. Big kicking game. I love that he kicks. He throws a kick to counter someone's right hand. It's gutsy, but also can lead to a lot of knockouts. I wouldn't call him a wrestler, though. I'd say he's more of a grappler. I actually might favor maybe Stoltzfus in the wrestling. But he's got 20 subs on his record. So if fight hits the ground, he can lock on anything. And he's a weak defense wrestler. Like I said, I like this fight a lot. I think it's one of my favorite fights on the card. Ruzaboyev looks like he could be a contender. But I think Stoltzfus is extremely underrated. I'm leading Ruzaboyev still. I think he can get a KO. I think he can get a sub. I really see Stoltzfus having the wrestling advantage. And while he has the wrestling advantage, I don't know if he's going to want to grapple Stoltzfus because of how tricky Ruzaboyev is on the feet. Excuse me, on the ground. But I'm going to go with Ruzaboyev to catch him with something on the feet. I'll see he does in the second round. Give me Ruzaboyev by second round TKO.
I'm glad that you have, like, as you seem to see the fight as closer than it looks on paper in the same way I do. Like,
no, I picked the stoppage, so.
Well, no, you picked the stoppage, and no suspense. I'm going to as well, but there are routes to victory for Stoltzfus that are obvious routes to victory, and ones that we've seen him pursue successfully before. If not for the fact that he got sparked so bad by Bruno Fajeda less than a year ago, I think I'd be calling the upset outright. But the problem is, as good as Stoltzfus is, and I think his offensive wrestling and offensive grappling are some of the more criminally underrated skill sets in the division. Against a guy like Ruziboyev, he's going to have to walk through some artillery to get there, and I don't trust him to make it through. Like, if not for getting iced by Ferreira, I think I'd be calling for the straight up upset here, and I could still see it happening. And I'm saying this as someone who underestimated Stoltzfus badly early on in his UFC run. Like, as he lost to Dawkins, Vieira, Mearshart, I was like, this is one of the worst guys the UFC assigned during COVID. He doesn't belong in the UFC. Like, I said all that shit, and I was wrong. Flat out. It was an inaccurate and premature take on my part. And in hindsight, I should have known better, because you go back and you look at how we got to the UFC, and he basically derailed the Joe Pyfer trade for a year. Like, a big deal was made.
That was like a freak injury too, but
that's what I'm getting to.
Okay, all right.
The whole thing about Pyfer's story, where Dana White basically put him up in an apartment for a year, he had to do that because Pyfer had to appear on the Contender Series twice a year apart. Yeah, Pyfer put his elbow on backwards, but it's not like they were playing Dance Dance Revolution at the time. He busted his elbow Shogun style because Stoltzfus had hoisted him in the air and was about to slam him. Like, yeah, it was a freak injury, but it happened in a moment that Stoltzfus was well in control of the fight. And yeah, I think Pyfer is a better fighter than Stoltzfus. I think he probably would have won that fight if he'd just gotten taken down and not busted his elbow. But again, Stoltzfus made his own luck that night. But because of how he got to the UFC and because of kind of how inert he looked in his debut against Dawkins, I way underrated him. I do think he's a solid guy now, and I do see routes to victory for him over Ruziboyev. Like, I think honestly his best route to victory would be to try to take Ruziboyev down. Ruziboyev is definitely very tricky on the ground, but if Stoltzfus can initiate the takedowns, I like Stoltzfus's top game better than I like Ruziboyev trying to, scoot to the fence, stand, or try to sweep from guard. But again, for Stoltzfus to get there, the probability is too high that Ruziboyev's going to find that chin. So I'm with you. I've got Ruziboyev by knockout. I think it probably actually happens in the first round, but me picking Ruziboyev by first round knockout does not reflect what a live dog I think Stoltzfus is in this fight.
I love that Stoltzfus is from Lancaster.
Isn't that Amish country?
Yeah, that's like the Amish capital. I hope like all his training is Amish related. Like his training is like he's in a field, just cutting crops down with a sickle.
It's like that movie Witness. Remember that old movie Witness with Harrison Ford, where he's actually a detective and he has to go protect this witness. Oh, dude, it's like 80s movie, but it's a great one. And he's a detective from Pittsburgh who has to go protect a witness that's Amish in Amish country. Nice. But he has to fit in with him for a while. So yeah, he's like putting up barns and he's bringing in the hay and
stuff is just like making furniture right now.
Yeah. Stoltzfus asked for like a fight kit with like no buttons or anything on, no buckles or anything fancy on it. Yeah. Third from the top at UFC Vegas 106 is a kind of hastily put together lightweight matchup between two featherweights as Sadiq Yusuf and Myron Santos slide into the coveted featured fight position here. Yusuf, 31-year-old Marylander of Nigerian descent, 13-4 overall, 6-3 since joining the UFC out of season 2 of Dana White's Contender Series. He's on a 2-fight losing streak. He fought just once last year. It was at UFC 300. He got knocked out by Diego Lopez in about 90 seconds. It was not a great night at the office for him. It helped propel Diego Lopez into featherweight title contention, perhaps earlier than was warranted based on the results. But at any rate, Yusuf, on the back of back-to-back losses at featherweight, is going to take this one-off fight up at 155 pounds against Santos. 24-year-old Brazilian is 15-1 overall. He's 2-0 since joining the UFC a little under a year ago. He's already fought once this year. picking up a split decision over Francis Marshall at UFC 313 back in March. Odds on this one are close. The favorite is minus 130. The underdog plus 110. Who are they?
I'll say Yusuf's the favorite.
It's actually Santos. Santos is minus 130. Sadiq Yusuf plus 110. Keith, again, this is kind of an interesting one. Neither of these guys was booked to fight on this card. Just the UFC needed another fight, and they picked up two solid featherweights and said, do you want to fight in a couple weeks at lightweight? And they said yes. Who you got?
Yeah, this is a big step up in competition. I'll say that for Santos. Yusuf is a I mean, he's been inconsistent, but the guys he's lost to are good. So I'll give him that. So Yusuf, I mean, he's well rounded. He's a nice striker. He fights behind a high guard defense, good output. He does his best when he's the one moving forward on the attack. I go back to like the Edson Barboza fight. He struggled with the pressure of Edson Barboza. He's very fast. He's got quick hands. He's accurate. Works behind a crisp jab. Great left hook. Fast combinations. He does have good power. Not as hard as a hitter as the broadcast team will pretend he is, but he's got excellent kicks. He's one of the best calf kickers in the UFC. He destroyed Alex Caceres with inside kicks. He works well in the clinch. Blast knees inside. He's a good offensive wrestler. I don't think he wrestles enough, but he can wrestle. He's a weak defensive wrestler. But I might be over exaggerating because I mean Arnold Allen turned him into a takedown dummy, but Arnold Allen is super good. So Marion Santos is I think I called him Daniel Santos. I meant to say Marion Santos earlier. He is hard to hold down though. He's got a great guillotine. We've seen that. I am worried about his chin after being cracked by Diego Lopez, but I think it's been a while now. Going up a weight class makes me feel a lot better. Marion Santos, dude's only 24 years old, so I love that. But I'll say this: he did not beat Francis Marshall. I thought he was gifted an extremely bad decision, in my opinion. He is a good striker, so I'm not throwing out the baby with the bathwater. Like I still like him moving forward. He's a good striker. He moves well. He does need to improve his output though. When he lets his hands go, fast hands, accurate, technically sound, works behind a good jab, a lot of variety in striking. He has nice power, and he really isn't in his power years. He knocked out Khan awfully bad. Nice stepping knees. I like his kicking game. Love his teep kicks. Good calf kicks. Not much of an offensive grappler, and I think he's a weak defensive wrestler. And he needs to improve his get-up game. So, as far as predictions go, I like Santos, but this is a big step up in competition. And I want to say it's a little too much too soon. I think Yusuf's going to have some success with the calf kicks. I think he's going to use his underrated grappling game, maybe get to the clinch, beat him up there. I think he has a wrestling advantage. I think at this point, Yusuf might be better. I am cautious. I think Yusuf's might be better everywhere, but I am cautious that Santos is at the age where he can just make huge improvements and also be like, oh my God, look at his grappling game is so much better. Or oh my God, look at this power he has. Until I see those, I'm gonna go the opposite way. I'm gonna take the slight upset. I'm gonna go with Yusuf by decision.
I can't remember the last time, or frankly, if there's ever been a time that there were 3 unanimous upset picks on a Shillan and Duffy preview. But I'm with you here, and the interesting thing is, I'm absolutely with you on the Francis Marshall fight. I love that you said that you in no way scored that fight for Santos, but you're not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Because here's the thing. You and I both scored that fight for Francis Marshall 30-27. Like we won't remember it as a robbery of the year top contender just because, it was a lower stakes fight. But it was a terrible decision. But it doesn't change how I feel about Santos. He's still a very young, athletic, good-sized, he's a prospect with a ton of upside. And the thing is, I'd feel the same about him even if he had lost to Marshall 30-27 or 29-28. And if that had happened, this fight would be happening and the line would probably be flipped. Yusuf would probably be a slight favorite. Your take on Yusuf is perfect. For a guy that's not been that active, I feel like we previewed a lot of his fights. He is obviously extremely fast. He's doesn't have like the dim mock death touch that the UFC booth will try to tell you he has, but he does have excellent power. More than just one punch knockout power, I'm impressed with how badly his kicks to all levels clearly hurt people. You mentioned that he struggles when he's put on the back foot, and you mentioned the perfect example of that is the Barboza fight, where it was a meeting of two guys that really do not thrive when they are forced to fight while backing up. Both guys probably knew it, and that battle of inches and battle of nuances and battle of will, Barboza won soundly. Having said that, that's not something that I could see Santos replicating, because by putting Yusuf on his back foot, that doesn't mean just like rushing at him heedlessly. But, you know, Barboza just used like feints and footwork brilliantly to kind of be in the driver's seat the whole time. Santos has not shown the ability to do that. And this is a massive step up for him, as you mentioned. Santos clearly has plenty of upside. For all we know, he is a future contender at featherweight. But I'm with you in that this is too much too soon, especially for a guy who crushed Khan Offley, but arguably lost all 3 rounds against Francis Marshall, and I don't think I'd favor Marshall against Sadiq Yusuf. So give me Yusuf by decision as well, and that is the 3rd unanimous upset pick out of, 10 fights so far. That brings us to the co-main event of UFC Fight Night 256. It is a light heavyweight contest between Paul Craig and Rodolfo Bellato. Craig, the 37-year-old Scot, is 17-9-1 overall. He is 9-9-1 in the UFC. He has fought at light heavyweight as well as briefly at middleweight. He is back up at light heavyweight here after a 3-fight losing streak at 185 pounds against Brendan Allen, Caio Borralho, and Bo Nickel. He has decided that his best future, or as far as the UFC is concerned, any future, lies back at the weight division where he originally made his bones. So he's back up at 205 pounds. He will be meeting Bellato. 29-year-old Brazilian is 12-2-1 overall. He's 1-0-1 since joining the UFC as a 2-time veteran of Dana White's Contender Series. He fought on the Contender Series back in Season 6 in 2022, got knocked out by Vitor Petrino in a rematch of a regional fight of theirs. Both of his career losses so far are knockouts by Petrino. But at any rate, he fought again on Season 7. He won, and since then he has a win over Ior Bateria back in December of 2023, and back in February of this year at UFC 312, a majority draw against Jim Crute. So Bellato looking to get a clean win in calendar year 2025. He is favored to do so. Keith, what number does the line start with?
4.
You know what? I have him down at -500, but it actually ranged from like -475 to like -600. So close enough for horseshoes, close enough for an amalgamation of 8 different sports books that I look at. Yeah, Rodolfo Bellato -500, Paul Craig +375. For what it's worth, I am glad that Craig is back up at 205 pounds. Here's the thing. Well, actually, there are 2 things. One, Craig is a huge guy. He's another
current champ.
He's got to win over your current champ, a finish no less. He's a huge guy, so dropping down to 185 didn't seem to make sense from a physical, mechanical standpoint. And then number 2, I mean, Paul Craig can be fun, but his best wins all involve his opponents making a big, stupid mistake. So his best future lies in the big, stupid division, like the one that Devin Tejada calls MMA's low fight IQ division, 205. Having said that, the 3-fight losing streak at 185, and even a couple of his last results at 205, like 3 years ago, show that we're coming to the end of the fun. When a fighter declines due to age, it typically comes a few different ways, and it's usually foreseeable. fighters that depend on fast twitch athleticism, most of them fade away in their mid to late 30s. The rare exceptions, the Jose Aldos of the world, are just brilliant enough and skilled enough to retool their game and find success late. But for the most part, if you made your bones as a fast twitch freak, that's not built to last. If your game is built on relentless pace and cardio, we know what it looks like when that starts to abandon you. Only time will tell, but maybe we saw the first of that out of Bilal Muhammad last weekend. Paul Craig's game plan at its best, and remember that this guy was a top 10 light heavyweight for a while, and he does have an uncontroversial finish win over Magomed Ankalaev, your current champ, but even his best wins involved him getting his ass kicked for at least a round, usually most of 3 rounds, before catching somebody. Once your chin can no longer carry you to that point, it gets ugly fast. And I think that's where Craig is at. Because of that, this is a terrible stylistic matchup for him for 2 reasons. 1, Bellato hits like a truck. 2, his UFC highlight reel doesn't show it because he's been lumping people up with his fists, but he's actually a good grappler himself. He's not bad. He's a good top position grappler. He's not out of his depth in bottom position. Like if they end up in some weird collision and Craig lands in mount on Rodolfo Bellato, it's not fight over. So, yeah. Anytime someone's this big an underdog, I start from the proposition of, well, if the upset happens, what does it look like? And it's not impossible. This is light heavyweight, but there are no even very plausible routes to victory for Paul Craig. He's not going to be able to take even 1 round of Bellato hitting him in the face, let alone 3. And again, if they do go to the ground, unless Bellato is hurt or just extravagantly exhausted, it's not a given that Craig is just going to, sweep him and slap on a mounted triangle or something. Bellato's a good grappler. Because of that, yeah, this is bad. Give me Bellato by first round TKO. I'm going to say he just starts catching him early. Craig, to his credit, does try to fight to his frame. He tries to kick people. He tries to keep them off him, but I don't think he's going to be able to. He's incredibly slow-footed. I thought he made some gains technically in his striking, but they weren't huge gains, and they seem to have disappeared as he's gone from slow to slower. So I think Bellato just starts catching him quickly. This could be one of those fights that's over in like 45 seconds, but even if it takes 4 minutes and 45 seconds, I don't think we hear the horn for the first round.
Oh, man. Ben, I always thought you were an honest guy and you'd give an honest assessment, but you refused to tell the truth. You said all the things why Craig went up to 205. The truth is, Bo Nickel chased him out of the division.
He sure did.
Guys, I'm not breaking down Paul Craig. Paul Craig sucks. He sucks. I'm sorry. He's done. He's washed. He was in his prime. He felt like the luckiest fighter in recent memory, and he's past his prime. You're higher on Bellato than I am. He's huge for the weight class. So Craig moving up, is gonna hurt him even more because now, not that Craig was a small light heavyweight. I mean, he was a huge guy anyway.
Big dude, yeah.
He's not gonna have a size advantage, or go. I mean, usually you want the size advantage going down, but moving up, he's going against a massive guy right away. He looks like a heavyweight, but he's lumbering like a heavyweight. I think you're much higher on his striking than I am. I think he's very raw on the feet. I think he's kind of stiff. He does have good volume. You mentioned he does have good power. Defensively, I hate his DV pillars. He's very hittable. He keeps his chin high. He doesn't change his head except for moving it straight back. He hates being pressured, though. Craig really isn't at the point where he can't pressure. He had a lot of shots from Io Pretoria. He struggled with the speed of Pretoria. I do like his calf kicks. He can close the distance. He can work in the clinch. Nice plumb clinch. I think that's something he could do really well against Paul Craig. Good dirty boxing. He will look for takedowns, but he's hardly a wrestler. Though he has solid defensive wrestling. If you take him down, you're much higher. I think you're right. He's a good grappler. He's a good top game. He's got 4 subs. You take him on his back, though. I think he struggles to get off his back. But if he's on top, he's got some mean ground and pound, and he's got good cardio. So there's the things I like about him, but I hate this fight. I think Craig is terrible. I mean, dude's so slow on his feet. He made Bo Nickel look like a prime Israel Adesanya, and people are talking about how bad Bo's striking is. So I don't think Bellato is that good. But I'm picking Bellato here. I mean, he could still win on the feet because of how bad Craig's striking is. I see Craig trying to get the fight to the ground and not getting there. I see Bellato catching him, possibly in the clinch, landing some big shots. You know what? I'm gonna say it's an ugly fight that goes the distance, and everyone jumps off the Bellato hype train. But I still think Bellato wins. Bellato by decision.
With that, we come to the main event of UFC Vegas 106, a scheduled 5 rounds at welterweight between longtime contender and former title challenger Gilbert Burns against rising undefeated prospect, now contender himself, Michael Morales. Burns, the 38-year-old Brazilian by way of Florida, is 22-8 overall. He's 15-8 in the UFC. Having started his UFC run at lightweight, he is 8-5 since moving up to welterweight, a run that again saw him challenge Kamaru Usman for the title and come fairly close to winning it as he rocked the champ badly in the first round. Usman recovered, won the fight, but Burns' high watermark saw him come very, very close. He is, however, now on a 3-fight losing streak, stretching back 2 full years. He fought twice last year, getting knocked out by Jack Della Maddalena, now your champ, at UFC 299 in March, then coming back in September in the headliner of UFC Fight Night 242 and dropping a pretty one-sided unanimous decision to Sean Brady. He will look to snap that streak against Morales, yet another younger, fresher up-and-comer. Morales, 25-year-old Ecuadorian fighting out of Mexico, 17-0 as a professional, 5-0 since joining the UFC out of Season 5 of Dana White's Contender Series. He fought just once last year. It was in August at UFC on ESPN Cannonier versus Bajallo, where he knocked out Neil Magny in the first round. This fight had actually been scheduled to take place last fall and then last winter. It kept getting pushed back because of one fighter or another. The UFC just really, really, really wanted Michael Morales to fight Gilbert Burns. It's finally happening. Morales is unsurprisingly your favorite. Keith, what number does the line start with?
2.
Michael Morales minus 700.
That's fucking nuts.
Gilbert Burns plus 500.
That's right. Gilbert Burns, who was winning against the current champion late in the 3rd round, is that's nuts. That's nuts.
I usually do and should have this time thrown out the additional credentials for Burns that before crossing over to MMA in earnest, he was, of course, a top grappler. He's a 3-time Mundials winner and the 2015 bronze medalist at Abu Dhabi. Just make of that what you will. Keith, I'm going to flip this one to you, but yes, this is Gilbert Burns being matched up with, Bilal Muhammad wasn't especially younger, but Burns was the guy that had already challenged for the title. Bilal was the guy that they were trying to put every possible thing they could in his path to keep him from challenging for the title. And then back-to-back fights against Della Maddalena and Brady, 2 younger guys on the rise. Once again, now it's Morales, undefeated prospect. UFC is getting all the mileage they can out of Burns. What does this fight look like? Who gets it done here? And considering that you expected the line to be much, much closer than it is, what kind of upset potential do you see?
I would throw some money on Burns just because, how can you not have some confidence that we just saw? Now, I know A beating B doesn't mean B beats C. I understand that.
Sure.
And and sometimes don't overrate someone based on a performance and a loss. Like that's another like law of MMA. But I mean, Gilbert Burns has been losing, but he has been losing to bums, and this is a step up in competition for Morales. So, do I think Morales should have been the favorite? Of course, I think he should have been the favorite, but -700, that's crazy. They keep doing this 100 guys versus a gorilla. I don't think the gorilla should be a -700 favorite against Gilbert Burns. This is Gilbert Burns. He's one of the most well-rounded fighters in the history of the sport. Now he's undersized. We've talked about this to a blue in the face. He's the traditional tweener. He's a little too big for 155, too small for 170. If they did those 160, 165 pound weight class, that would have been perfect for him. I'm glad they didn't do that, but for his sake, it would have been perfect for him. He's a solid striker. He's got fast hands. He keeps everything tight. He throws a lot of hooks and he throws a lot of hard ones. Combination, he gets inside, looking to land bombs. He does have power. I mean, he starts David Meyer. He hurt Kamaru Usman in their fight. He hurt Hassan Shemaev. Go back to Shemaev. Now, I know that was years ago. That was like, what, 3-4 years ago. But just to have Shemaev, and he's the only person that made Shemaev look human. I mean, that's not true. Usman had moments, but like he gave Shemaev the best fight. Even hurt the champion Jack Della Maddalena in that matchup, and at times. Due to his height, he does struggle against the longer, lengthy welterweights, and that's obviously what Morales is. Usman and Shemaev both busting him up with a jab. He was reaching a lot on his counter striking against Jack Della Maddalena, which I am concerned. I don't think that's an avenue for victory for him moving forward. I think it's a little sign of a decline. He throws some mean body kicks, and that's because he does not care if you try to grab his leg and wrestle him. He closes the distance, and he can grind in the clinch. He's got some mean, dirty boxing. He's got good timing on his entries. He can wrestle. He took Stephen Thompson down over and over again. He took Jack Della Maddalena down 7 times, and we just saw how hard it was for Bilal Muhammad to take him down. Now, I do think Jack Della made huge improvements since the Burns fight, but still, it's just like, look how easily he was taking down Jack Della Maddalena with this, like, what he kept doing was he's getting a single leg and doing going to the crackdown position, which is it was a really nice move by Burns. And his performance in that fight, like, yeah, he lost, but it has aged so well.
He was up 2-0 going into the third.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, he go back to like when he picked up Tyron Woodley, slammed over the power double. He's got some body lock takedowns, got great hip control. He judo through Gunnar Nelson. I mean, a long time ago, but and he's super tough as nails. He could take a beat in, and yeah, he's had some durability issues recently, but I mean, it's still hard to bet against Gilbert Burns in a war. I am worried though that the total has caught up to him. I mean, he was just knocked out by Jack Della Maddalena. If he gets the fight down, he's got a great top game. You talked about his credentials, as good as anybody has ever come. I mean, his top game is awesome. He's obviously a great submission threat. He's got 9 subs on his record. He recently subbed Neil Magny. Now, Michael Morales, can we just talk about what this guy's accomplished already? The dude's only 25 years old, and he's already headlining a UFC. And the guy could be 5, 6, 7, 8 years away from his prime, which is so impressive. He's long and lengthy fighter, big for the weight class, good striker, quick hands, beautiful jab. That's the key to victory for him, is just pop that jab and pop it out a lot. He will drop his hands and throw from his hips a little bit, and he uses that kind of spring into his mid-range and land his power shots. He has nice power. I mean, he showed his power against Trevin Jones and Jake Matheus. And like I've said, he probably hasn't even reached his power years yet. He hit Magny with a great spinning elbow. Nice kicking game, which I wonder if he throws a lot of kicks against someone like Burns. His defense issue is his lack of head movement, and Burns can crack. He's a solid offensive wrestler. Like, I wouldn't call him a wrestler, but he can get takedowns. I mean, look at what he did to like Adam Fugit. He's good at winning wrestling exchanges. He's got good fight IQ. I mean, he looks for takedowns and big flurries at the end of rounds, and against like a tough guy against Jake Mathews, securing rounds that way. He only has one submission win, and I mean, I'd be shocked if he subbed Gilbert Burns. I guess he like crack him some stuff and get him really rocked and then lock him something, but like straight like taking him down, taking his back, lock it in a choke. That'd be really surprising. But he destroyed Neil Magny with ground and pound. After the Jack Dillon Metallica performance last night, or 2 nights ago, I should say, I like Burns a lot more than I did, you know? That said, he's taken a lot of damage over the years. Up until this moment, Morales has aced every test. I really want to take Burns based on those lines, and as a betting man, to me, it's definitely well worth throwing some money on Burns. But this fight was set up to be a passing of the torch fight, and I think that's happened. I see Morales lands hard shots from the distance, working that jab. Burns tries to get inside, but he struggles. He eats big shots while it's happening. I just talked about Burns, but I'm going to say Morales puts on the performance of his lifetime. I see Morales lands a big shot and finishes it. Give me Morales by third round TKO.
Yeah, I love the breakdown there. This is as wide and unforced line as we will have in a UFC main event this year. And when I say unforced, if there's a short notice main event, the UFC's just got to find who they can find. And if the favorite ends up being minus 1,200, well, they found the best person they could find. Or if it's a title fight, but it's, when you've got a prime Valentina Shevchenko, the next woman up may just be plus 800 because that's what there is. But as far as unforced, like this, they made this matchup because they wanted to make this matchup. They thought it was appropriate. This is as wide a line as you're going to have this year. And what I kept getting from you as you broke it down was, this is just a few years, a few fights away from either being much, much closer on the books or having upset special written all over it. But I just talked about Paul Craig and what happens when fighters age. Here's a case of obviously a much better fighter in Gilbert Burns. At 155, but especially at 170, a lot of what allowed Burns to overcome the physical shortcomings was his incredible durability and cardio and ability to push the pace, because he is a dynamic finisher. He hits hard on the feet. He's obviously an incredible grappler. So if he's durable enough to last 5 rounds, that's good for him because he had 5 rounds to catch his opponent slipping. I don't know if he has that anymore. Just stuff like being ahead early against Della Maddalena, and then it starts rolling downhill. The Brady fight was more competitive early than it was late. Because of that, if Gilbert Burns pulls off the massive upset here, I think it's by jumping on Morales early. You're right that Morales has aced every test so far, and those tests look good on paper. Trevin Giles is a dangerous guy to be taking on in your very first UFC fight. Jake Matheus and the 2024 version of Neil Magny are solid kind of 15 through 25 welterweights that should have been solid tests. So he's passed everything with flying colors, but we've still yet to see what it looks like when someone truly pushes him out of his comfort zone, because he's had 2 basic kind of fights so far. Ones where he just blasted somebody early, or ones where it went all 3 rounds, or it went into the 3rd round, but he was basically in the driver's seat the whole time. We've yet to see what happens when Morales gets pushed out of his comfort zone. And that's a big question mark. The skills don't line up, but we can see Burns win on Saturday in a way where it doesn't even really look like an upset. Like, I think back a few weeks back to Alexander Volkanovski versus Diego Lopez, where Lopez had been so hot and had just been crushing everybody so badly that when he ran into someone as skilled and as prepared as Volkanovski, he just looked clueless. Like, we say stuff like he broke or he wilted, but no, he had never faced that kind of resistance. He didn't know what to do. His coaches had maybe not properly prepared him with a plan B, plan C. So if Burns jumps all over Morales early, we could see stuff that we've never seen before here. Magny would have been the perfect person to present that kind of test to Morales. Magny as a guy who traditionally has been good everywhere, incredibly durable, and somebody that builds as the fight goes along. Like the Neil Magny of, say, 2022 even would have been a huge trap fight for Michael Morales, but Morales blasted him in the first round, and we never really got to see. There's every possibility that Morales just makes it look easy against Burns, but in the interest of learning something about these fighters, I actually hope that's not the case. I definitely have Morales here. Like, if you're at home, like, thinking, I know you guys, when I start kind of wavering and hemming and hawing and you know that I'm getting ready to deliver. No, I'm not. I got Morales here, but I think this has a strong possibility of looking much closer than a minus 700 versus plus 500 fight should. And I kind of hope it does. And what I expect, if not hope, is that Burns will surprise Morales early. Because Morales has a fantastic jab, fantastic kicks, and generally excellent distance management. But for the most part, he's fought people who've allowed him to do that. They've given him kind of I'll give you the John Jones 4 minutes to figure out my rhythm and my distance. Like, nobody runs right at John Jones and tries to kill him, even though that's probably your best bet if you're the average opponent. I kind of hope Burns does that to Morales. I kind of hope Burns surprises Morales. Like, comes out, throws a 1-2, and shoots a takedown just to see what happens. Or comes in and tries to make things messy, and which is not normally his forte. I kind of hope Burns tries to jump all over Morales. I hope at this point Burns is realistic enough to realize, okay, I can't fight at a comfortable pace and try to catch this guy, or I can't go into the third round 2 rounds down and trust myself to take over this fight late. I hope he's realistic enough not to do that. Give me Morales to get Burns out of there. I'm going to say he gets it done by 3rd round TKO, but don't be surprised at all if there's a big scare early on and we have to see Morales dig deep and maybe make adjustments in a way that we haven't yet. Maybe we see Morales' corner yell at him between rounds for the first time in his UFC run. Even that would teach us something. Like, what's it look like when the game plan isn't working, or he's not fighting to the game plan and they have to make adjustments. But Morales, as the much, much younger, much fresher guy, bigger, at this point in their respective careers, more athletic. In his prime, Burns was arguably the most athletic guy in the division. Morales has all the advantages here. But I would love it if this is a more interesting fight than the lines would lead us to believe. I've got Morales by 3rd round TKO. And that is it. The Sherdog Radio Network preview for UFC Fight Night 256. Burns versus Morales, also known as UFC Vegas 106. I've been Ben. He has been Keith. If this is your first time watching or listening to one of our previews, first of all, thank you. We hope you enjoyed it. We do our best to deliver a mix of in-depth analysis and occasional historic or humorous or musical asides that we think is pretty unique in this industry. Please do like, please subscribe. Neither of those things cost you anything. They make our bosses happy. They allow us to keep bringing you this content free of charge. They also give you access to a lot of other good content, including Check the Kick, the Shillan Show, where he covers a ton of European and world MMA and gives much more solid betting advice than we do. Please do drop us a comment. Keith and I both man the comment section. We would love to hear your take on these fights. We picked an unprecedented number of unanimous upsets here. If you think we really whiffed on any of them, or if we missed any additional value, let us know. Drop a comment. If you're right and we're wrong, we are heartily willing to admit fault on the recap and give you your flowers. You just have to come collect them. We are live on the Sherdog YouTube page right after the main event. Keith takes the captain's chair. We talk about all 12 of these fights in reverse order, from the headliner down to that first prelim, talking about what was good, what was bad, what was surprising, what was controversial. There's always something. Talking about what's next for some of the notable winners as well as losers, and talking with you. The live chat is open that whole time, so we are taking your questions, your comments, and your hot takes in real time. We have a growing community of friends that hang out with us after the fights, and we'd love for you to be part of it. Between now and then, thank you once again for listening. Enjoy the rest of your week, and by all means, enjoy these fights.